Hello and welcome back to Project Passion, the podcast made to inspire you to follow your passion and turn it into a successful business or career. This week, I don't want to spend too much on the intro. I want to get it kicked into because I know it's going to be super valuable for everyone. This week, I have Asim Hussain on the show. Asim, do you want to introduce yourself, kick it off, tell people who you are?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for having me on, Johnny. I really appreciate this. So my name's Asim. I own an agency called MME London. It specializes in from your local brick and mortar businesses and Facebook ads and so forth. But recently I've pushed into the whole talent management sector of things. So essentially just if a brand sort of approaches me, I then sort of be the middleman, connecting them to an influencer and taking the cut in between that typically. And yeah, I mean, sort of going into my agency, my hobby sort of full-time job last year as well, and prior to my agency was actually being a YouTube content creator. So content is a big thing for me. So and it's such an important thing when it comes down to your agency as well. So yeah, that's sort of a nutshell of who I am and what I do and what my agency is about.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So as you said, your start in marketing did come from your YouTube channel. Do you want to kind of just talk people through that and how it was you actually went from transitioning and getting into the marketing side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So back when I did YouTube full time, so YouTube's very much an unpredictable source of income. So essentially, one thing I've learned with YouTube is, it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have, et cetera, et cetera. It really is all about, what you get with your monthly views and so forth. But I basically done this since being back in secondary school. So I initially kicked off being a YouTube content creator as a hobby back in like 2012, and then took it a wee bit more serious in 2013, which then I guess it's where it all sort of kicked off from. And being at that young age, I guess you never really, um, I guess you don't really know what you want to do in life. It's safe to say, because you're always going from that transition of being from secondary school to college and going to uni or whatever it may be. So you kind of have like a brief vision, but you never really 100%. It's super uncertain at that point. So I kind of stuck with YouTube going to college and so forth. But with YouTube, it just allowed a ton of opportunities to work with major conglomerate brands and be able to build relationships, because what I do on my channel is gaming. So over the years, that's basically what I was doing, building these connections with brands and so forth. But it got to a stage where when something is a hobby like that as well, you don't want it to become sort of too dependent on its sort of income, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that safe to say? So, because sometimes what I found anyway is that it can really just suck the fun out of what you enjoy doing, because now you're super dependent on that income. Um, so I actually kicked off my agency last year. And in between, I'd say for the last probably 3 years, I've always been trying to find things that I can sort of dip into. And I'm going from all the way from drop shipping. I've read a shit ton of books. So when it all comes down to that stuff as well. But I started off with drop shipping, tried to basically do something with that. I decided to launch a company called It's Matte Black, which essentially is your daily essentials, but in matte black.
Mm.
So like your AirPods, mugs, cases, whatever it may be. Because I came across this really weird thing on Instagram. I don't know if you've probably seen it actually, Johnny, maybe on any of the socials, but it's basically like a picture of these cans of Cokes and like Starbucks cups, and they're all matte black.
Everything.
Everything's just, yeah. Exactly. So I saw that and I was like, wow, that looks pretty cool. And that's where the idea came from that. So I done that. But what I done wrong with that is I didn't know how to do Facebook ads. So that was a big no in some sort of perspective.
I was similar in that because I still have a clothing brand. I created Skullfish Apparel, and it was the same thing. You think you know everything on it, and then it's just that whole extra side of the market, and I think that was the problem as well, that I didn't understand the saturation in the market and understand how saturated apparel and clothing brands were at the time and still are now, and that was the problem, was to do sorry, to be successful in that niche, you need to really know how to market yourself and how to use influencer marketing to your advantage and how to actually promote the brand and build a community around it. I believe, like, that's how I think of it.
Absolutely, yeah. See, it's good you mentioned a clothing brand, because I've been following this guy called Reese for God knows how many years, probably around maybe 3 or even 4 years, and he owns this clothing company called Mandivois. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's one of those like fancy French names, but the dude's based in the UK, and he's such an inspiration when it comes down to this. Sorry, that was my phone. So what happened with this dude and why I really look up to him is he basically was training for Man City and he was about to go pro. One of his best friends are Raheem Sterling. So like he's way up there in terms of like connections and so forth. Long story short, the dude had an injury. So imagine someone saying to you, Johnny, you know, you're going to make like 200K a week and then over the weekend you just essentially break your ankle or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and then that's just non-existent. That is literally what happened to this guy, and his clothing line was his plan B.
Yeah.
And you know, like you said about the whole influencer marketing sort of sector of things, that's right to an extent because um, I've read a few of listened, sorry, to a few of his podcasts, and he had that exact mentality where he assumed that because he knows all these high-end footballers, that it'd be very much a sort of straightforward process where he's able to just give out his, you know, clothing to these guys to then just get them to wear on Instagram or whatever it may be, which they all did. They all done that, but it basically resulted in close to zero in sales by the time you look at your profit margins and so forth. And what this guy done is he taught himself how to do Facebook ads. So he went into a deep, in-depth sort of scenario with that stuff. Long story short, on an average month-to-month basis, purely through Facebook ads, he pulls in about 1.5 to 2 mil a month
Ooh.
in sales. And the great thing about this guy is, and again, he's been doing this for the last 3 years, where on his Instagram page, he'll show his actual Facebook ad manager, and he'll show like what he's spent on sort of X ad versus Y and so forth. And like a typical budget for this guy is like 30 grand a week, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, but in comparison, that's just mental. Like back in around Christmas time, he done a sale. Again, pumped out Facebook ads, ended up clearing like 1 point something mil in its first week with that sale, which was just absolutely insane.
That's crazy amount of numbers. It's testament to how good Facebook advertising is.
Absolutely. See, I don't know if you were one of these people, but it's safe to say that I was probably super in denial at one stage when it came down to sort of Facebook ads. I really thought that it was one of those things where, of course, to an extent, the more you put in, the more you get back. But that's not always true because you could put a crap ton of money in and absolutely lose it all without the right strategy. So I kind of had that mentality where I was like, it's almost too good to be true,
Hmm.
if that makes
Yep.
sense. But again, no, like when I searched up other e-commerce companies and so forth, then I randomly came across Jordan Platten on YouTube, and that's when I really just dug deep into this because I figured it absolutely does not matter about your product. I mean, of course, your product needs to be up to a good standard, but as long as you know how to do marketing, it's basically like having a voice
Yeah,
in some sort of way. Without a voice, you wouldn't be able to sell, but without marketing, you won't be able to sell your product worldwide
of course.
in some sort of way.
And that's it. I mean, you can. That's the best way to articulate this. So, like, you can have all the struggles that you have when you're trying to get a product to market or when you're trying to get something to actually go live, but actually getting that product to sell with consumers is way harder than it is to actually get it there. I mean, like getting loans and getting set up with business, it's way harder to win with consumers than it is to actually get to
Absolutely.
the point where you're then starting output.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I think it depends on what you want your business to be as well. Because like with clothing, of course, where you need capital, right? Because you need to be able to get your materials. You need to have the the not up to standard clothing come through and realize it's not up to your standard. So you lose that amount exactly.
I mean, the problem I think with clothing is the saturation of the market. That's what makes it so hard. I mean, back in the day when I was younger, and you had like up and cut gym apparel in England, you had Alone was like one of the biggest. Even when Hobo Jack had just started kicking off, like that was when the trend for these sort of products and these sort of clothing brands came in, and then the market just went super saturated. And it got to the point where now you have to be like on another level with your like you have to be better than everyone else, and it really is a game of if you're the best, you will start winning.
Absolutely. Yeah. See, going back to that Reese and his brand Mandevore, he funny enough doesn't do a lot of influencer marketing.
No,
Yeah, no, not as much as you would assume. Um, and that's what the really interesting part about his business is. See, he's actually created himself a personal brand. Essentially, just I guess you can say he's sort of like some online type of mentor, but just simply via his Instagram page. But with what he does is he's built his own personal brand around the name Reese, where he just essentially shows his lavish lifestyle. But it's never too flashy. It's always to an extent where you can be like, right, that's like a realistic goal that I want, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So it's not about like private jets and all that stuff. It's just about the basic things in life. You know, everyone always wants a nice car, and eventually you want a big house and so forth. And these are the things that he shows.
just
But
freedom of working for yourself and being
absolutely,
successful.
yeah, exactly. And the thing I like about him, and again, why he's definitely up in my top five, if not top 10 list of people I look up to, is because he doesn't show the things that he can afford to do, if that makes sense. So, like for example, when he goes to travel, he shows you sort of understanding the basic logic of money,
Yeah,
that it doesn't matter. Like this guy's clearing like 1 point something mil consistently every single month, so he can afford to go private jets and chauffeurs everywhere, right? And still be in profit. But he basically what he shows is just absolutely incredible, and it's all about just being able to hold yourself back as well and not get too greedy,
yeah,
which is a trap that we all are a victim of, absolutely, without a single doubt. Even sometimes if you say, yo, you know, if someone was to give you 10 grand right now, and you're consistently going to be earning that every single week, for example, although that's a significant amount of money, that's also something that can go. So it's very important how you utilize what you have, because I guess nothing is forever as well. That's another thing. So it's all about being able to multiply what you earn as well. I think that's the key thing.
yeah. I mean, it's all right as you say if you get £10,000 this month, but it's can you make that sustainable, and how do you then distribute that 10,000 to make sure you continue to make that every month? And then once you stop working, you have the problem of if you stop working, does the money stop, or have you set up enough infrastructure that that money just continues to income by itself?
Absolutely. And you know, that leads on to the next point actually with Facebook ads that I want to mention. Like, you know how you said, of course, clothing is very much a saturated
Yeah,
industry. I would say, I mean, from my overall perspective now, I've come to the conclusion that every business model that is saturated does work, right? Like if you wanted to go and open up a restaurant tomorrow, you can absolutely do that and be successful. As opposed to you can also go and build a clothing brand, of course, but you just need a whole lot more capital when you're going to go online. But you can still build something and be the best today that knocks everyone out of the water, for example, over the last 2 or 3 years. So I believe that every business model works in general. I think it's just as much it depends on how much knowledge you have within that field, and you have to be passionate about what you do. Like there's a good quote by Warren Buffett where he says that, of course, where a lot of people will have their hands in so many sort of pies, so to say, where you know they've got one business here in one sort of niche, and then like for example they own a restaurant and then they own a clothing brand and then they own a gym, right? Sure, all of these can be profitable, but you'll never make as much money um, going out of your circle as opposed to staying in your circle of knowledge and basically just expanding that. You'll be able to make so much more.
100%.
And I completely agree with that.
Definitely. And I mean, uh, going on sort of from that as well, obviously with your agency, is that what is sort of the mentality you keep with your niche within your agency? Do you stick to one or two, or do you sort of diversify in terms of niches yourself?
Yeah, so when I started off my agency, I only targeted restaurants, and that's purely because I went on the basis of the type of content that I would be able to create for them as well.
Yeah.
And of course, what I learned is that with restaurant owners, you can get very big restaurant owners in the sense of they're happy to pay a high service charge. And then sometimes you can get a really fancy restaurant with a super tight owner. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's as simple as that. And my mentality was that when I did start my agency, that okay, if I just niche down in restaurants, this would be great. And at the beginning it was because I had an idea of the type of content that I was able to create for these guys. And there's a lot of competition when it comes down to restaurants, because of course on like a high street you would have multiple restaurants,
yeah,
right? Especially in London and so forth. So that's a very competitive market, as opposed to I would target, for example, dental surgeries, right? Which I knew was super high ticket, but I felt like there was something that I was personally missing that I couldn't sell to them, if that makes
yeah.
sense. And over the months, that's basically well, the conclusion that I came down to, and this is another thing that I think is so important when it comes down to outreach. I think I know we all go by the saying of, do start with something that you are passionate about. I completely agree with that, absolutely. But at the same time, I do think it's important that you do make your options as wide as possible when you are first starting out, just so you can have some sort of capital within your agency to be flexible, to have, well, the ability to lose a client, for example, and not get another one until the end of the month, for instance, to replace that. So I think all of that is important. But the key thing that I've learned is, and I know you follow Jordan Platten, of course, Jonathan. So the biggest thing is to be able to sell, and that's all it comes down to. And that's something that I've sort of worked on over the last year that I haven't mastered as of yet, but I feel I'm 1,000 miles ahead of where I was as opposed to last year, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. And it's also to go within your network. Like, you will know that the whole referral situation is such a big thing, right?
it's a
And exactly, I feel like this is something that is very much underlooked. See, all it takes, right? Like, I know when I said a couple of seconds ago that keep your options wide, but all you typically need to do is land at least 2 clients, right? Maybe within the same niche, get them great results, and you are on a snowball effect,
100%
right?
every time. Yeah,
And that is basically it's so powerful, and I feel like it's so underlooked, because a lot of people just have the mentality of, I need to get 10 or 15 clients a month. But the question is, can you handle 10 or 15 clients a month, right?
exactly.
And you're pitching all of these people from scratch. So once you get these couple of clients, great results, they speak for you. So they become your selling voice, basically. And I think that's so important. And then that leads me on to the whole networking
Yeah.
sort of
Well, I
situation,
think
which I know, yeah,
just to touch on the niche thing we were talking about there, as you said about like Jordan, he preaches the, stay wide, but then, niche down to two or three that you want. And obviously, you said you went straight for restaurants because you knew that the market was competitive and you knew that people would be willing to pay the money depending on the type of restaurant you were going for. And I think I don't know if it's the same with you. I found at the start I was the exact same. I was like, I want to do this niche, and this one, and I kind of went at them, and then, as you say, provide results, get referrals. But I think it kind of, and hopefully it does get to a point where I think it is just sales. And if you know how to articulate copy, and if you know how to articulate a creative that will sell and will be a winning advert, I don't think it matters as much on the niche as long as you can actually correlate the knowledge and the skills across the different niches. And just as long as you know a general knowledge of that niche or the client gives you enough knowledge, I think I could probably articulate an advert for most niches with enough information on it.
yeah, no, absolutely. And do you know what? That just sort of sprung another idea into my head. When it comes down to pricing clients as
Yeah,
well. Now, I found this a very big struggle, and it's safe to say that, I mean, I've done tons of meetings, right, throughout my agency that I've lost. And I would say it comes all down to the budget sort of scenario. So I don't know if you want to touch upon that within your experience in your agency first, and then
yeah, definitely. And I mean, every niche really is different. Like, it seems mad that you would always be performing the exact same service for one niche, and charging double the price that you charge in another. Like, it seems ludicrous in that way. But yeah, you're right. It is really down to budgeting in terms of how much people want to spend. And I think sometimes people kind of get thrown off as well, especially if they hear like a monthly ad spend and you say, this is what I recommend as your ad spend. And they go, oh, yeah, that's fine. And then you mention the service charge, and that's where they kind of stumble a bit because
Absolutely.
they feel like they have the budget. And then it comes into the realm of, right, well, is it the value problem? Have I not provided enough value to, make you feel like the services worth buying into? Or is it really a money problem? Is it you don't actually have available funds right now to pull the trigger and take action? And then it is really the case. In my case, it is I'll go back and sit down and go, right, well, if it's a case you want to pull the trigger, but you financially cannot do it, how can we skim this down? How can we tailor this package a little bit more and take off some of the areas that you don't really need at the minute because you can't afford to have that bit in? And then maybe, depending on their traffic numbers and stuff like that, I'll then look at it as, maybe I sacrifice in the first term, but then coming into second term, it's more beneficial because once I've shown you a proof of concept results, then, they're happier to sign higher contracts and longer contracts. So it makes it more financially viable in both ends.
Yeah. Absolutely. See, I completely agree with you on that. See, when I start going to my meetings and so forth, like I remember one dude that was a restaurant owner, and I completely owned the whole meeting, right? Like as far as value goes, I know that was a meeting that I was completely happy with. And funny enough, I mean, the guy was talking about his previous sort of experience within the restaurant industry. And he told me how he used to have a restaurant up in Mayfair, right? And made like 18 million a year. Now, this is a key thing, right? I have found that in my town, I don't want to say this for every restaurant owner specifically, but sometimes they do talk a bit, right? Like they will really sort of big themselves up, and then when you get down to the service charge, they'll just divert. And with this guy, like he basically, we got down to the whole budget question, and um, he actually already worked with a social media agency prior to having a meeting with me. And after he basically told me his story and so forth, and we continued into the meeting, his question was to basically price him how I feel I should price him. Now, the interesting thing is, and there's that whole saying where, and like you said, you've got your ad spend and you've got your service charge. Now, it's important to make it, I guess, well, to be aware of this, that even if I said to you, right, Johnny, right, I'd suggest you probably spend £600, right, in ads, right, to be realistic, because that's going to allow us to be more flexible and utilize your budget and get enough of a target audience to be able to retarget as well. And then you're like, well, that's great, happy days. And then I'm like, okay, great. And then my service charge is £1,000. Now, instantly, that £600, you don't actually no longer see as your ad spend. You just see it as you are paying me £1,600.
Exactly.
And that sort of throws off a lot of business owners. But also at the same time, I would also say not to put yourself at a weak point, because if you're in a small area, or even if you're in London, and it's important to understand your market and how many agencies there are, right? There's loads of us. There's absolutely tons of us. And if somebody else is going to offer the same thing at literally half the price, don't basically put yourself at a disadvantage. So it definitely sucks when you have to come down on price, but be realistic with yourself, because you just want to bag them for that first month,
Yeah.
right? Because then your skills, they're basically just giving you the opportunity further to just show what you can do. So I would say don't always go in for a crazy retainer straight away. Like, I came to the conclusion that I needed to stop going in at £1,000 a month, because
Very,
every,
very early on that the £1,000 that some people say is also minimum you should take minimum, that didn't work like at all when I tried it out.
absolutely, they literally freak out, as you would, right? Because again, where there's so many of you and everyone has like a standard set fee of maybe like £600, which I found in my area was, I can't then put myself at a disadvantage by going up £400. So as long as you know you can get this person results and they give you a decent ad spend, just bite your tongue, take a low retainer, prove them for that first month. If you can get those results and that profit, there's absolutely no reason why they wouldn't want to pay you more after that. And then again, that's exactly when you go into your snowball effect.
Yeah, and I mean, just as you said there, that's actually somewhat how I would use it as a sales tactic. So I will actually use a 2-week trial, but I'll try and convince them not to take that because it's more financially better. So I'll explain it like, we do offer a 2-week proof of concept trial. Explain about you have to foot up the bill for the ad spend, but I explain that if you sign the contract on a 3-month term today, this is how much it costs. But if we do a 2-week proof of concept, we have a better sort of guideline of how much you do make in revenue and how much we can benefit you. So you're more likely going to end up spending more after a 2-week proof of concept instead of spending less and signing the 3-month term up front.
Absolutely. That's a really nice way to go, and definitely agree with you on that one. And do you know what? I think it ultimately is about getting whoever it is, a business owner, excited. I think that's a really key thing.
Every
Um, because again, right, when you launch your agency or when you launch anything business wise in life, you're always super ecstatic, right, in that first week, because this is your door to success. This is your door to financial freedom. And you're like, I'm going to tackle this in every angle because this is what it's going to give me in return. So it's going to be completely worth it. I think it's so important to reignite that spark basically in every single business owner, and you need to get them excited. And another thing is that I found quite interesting, with certain niches, again, restaurants you can use as an example, but when it comes down to the budget question, I think if they really come back to you with a stupid price, because I always ask the question if I do get an objection, and the question is going on the basis of what I've showed you and so forth, do you feel like it's going to benefit you, and how much do you actually think this is worth, right? Like, how much do you think this is worth for your business? And let's say, for example, if I said £600 was my service charge, right? We're not talking about ad spend. And they came in at a stupid thing and said, right, they'll be happy to pay like 350 quid. Right, that's ridiculous. So you can't go too low to that extent, but then you basically come back with the objection by saying, okay, if Tom down the road has a restaurant, he's running ads, the person you've compared them to, because that's another important thing to always give comparisons. Is it worth £250 for Tom to basically run your business into the ground and take all your customers? Is £250 what your restaurant is worth?
That's a very good line of sales. Especially, I like that because that's the one thing. Obviously, we've both done the Affluent Academy, and sort of we would get taught that sort of 3-question close. Like, do you believe it's worth it? And blah, blah. But I've never used that because I don't like it. I don't like the way it sounds when you put it at people. But the way you said it definitely sounds like a much more sort of casual way and a way of actually not sounding rude and putting them on the spot, but sort of letting them price guide you first. And then it also, as you said, benefits you because that you can drop your price a little bit and still be high enough to make a profit, but low enough that there's more chance of them to accept.
Absolutely, because that question, they're never going to come back and object that, right? So, like, if I say to you, Johnny, is your agency worth 250 grand, or basically 250 grand, 250 pounds, sorry, right, to shut down, you're not going to come back and say to me, yeah,
Yeah,
it's worth 250 quid.
exactly.
You're never going to say that. So you're always going to get, that anger in the business owner and that competitive mode, which is fun, but it's important to not become a salesperson. I think that's what it is.
100%.
To not,
It's
yeah,
energy, like you said. It's about the giving them the sort of passion back in it, and I think a lot of people miss that because they go in very, very salesy and they haven't got that actual energy, and they don't really, I think, don't have a passion in helping other people. And I think to do this, you have to have a passion for watching other people grow and watching other people be successful. And if you can't have that in yourself, it's impossible to try and instill that in someone else because you don't go in with that explosion of energy to light up the room and to get them thinking, damn, like, I'm not doing enough. I can do more and I can actually be more successful than I am. And shit, I'm not making as much money as I could. and basically make them invest before you've even started pitching them in the first place.
Absolutely. And that goes on to outreach as well. When you're doing cold calling, never to come across too salesy. And like you've seen in the Affluent Academy, right? You start off a call, hey Johnny, how's it going? My name's Asim. How's your day going? Right? You and I both know nobody gives a shit about how that person's day going, right? Because it's just as raw as that, because every single person that's going to cold call is going to ask that question.
Exactly.
That's another thing. So it's important to just get straight to the point
Yep.
when it comes down to cold calling, because that puts you at a disadvantage before you even get a meeting, because sometimes you can land a meeting with a structure like that, don't get me wrong, but they already know what they're in for, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
preface it beforehand because, well, actually, no, I'll let you go. I'll go through what after. I'll pitch you my outreach and I'll actually see what you think of my outreach strategy as well for my agency at the end of this bit.
yeah, sure, yeah. So just to end it on that part there, so I found that a lot of business owners, especially midday, they somehow have time to kill. So they'll be more than happy for you to come in and have a meeting. And you'll get people that are really rude that will take a phone call midway, or literally walk out and have a cigarette. That's happened to me a few times.
Shit.
And it does piss you off where you're talking and they just get up and go have a fag.
Yeah,
And you're like, are you serious? Because at that point, you know they're not taking you as serious anymore.
and they're not interested in that. At that point, they're already getting on with their day. They're thinking what they're doing this afternoon. They're not even listening at that point.
Exactly. So that's another thing. So when you come across salesy, they know they're getting a salesman or saleswoman come to them, and I just feel like they're not going to take you as serious. But remember, you're there to benefit them.
Exactly, exactly, and that actually previous. So when I do my outreach, usually what I do is same as usual, do my lead generation, but I'll actually email ahead first. Somewhat the affluent script. It's changed in a few places, as I'm sure everyone does anyway. But
Yeah.
from that, I'll send the email a couple of days beforehand. So like send them on a Friday for the next week, because then when I call them, it helps me beat the gatekeeper as well. Because when I ring up, I'll just go, "Oh, hey, it's going. Can I speak to such and such?" And they'll go, "Same as always. Oh, yes. What's it regarding?" And at that point, instead of going, "Oh, I just wanted to increase your sales," I can just say, "Oh, yeah, I emailed him on Friday there. I'm just giving him a call to follow up on it, is all." So I've already beat the gatekeeper at that point. And they just go, "Oh, shit. All right, yeah, give me a second." As soon as I get on the
Yeah.
phone, I use that to break the ice with him. So I'm like, "Hey, how's it going? Look, sorry to bother you. I know you're really busy today, man. I was actually just giving you a quick call. I did send you an email the other day, but I just wanted to give you a call to follow up on it if you had 30 seconds right now." And very frankly, 90% of the time, no one knows what the fuck the email was in the first place. They just go,
Yeah.
"Yeah, go on then." Or they'll say, regarding. And regardless, my script continues the exact same anyway, because I go straight in with, "Oh, well, the reason I was getting in contact in the first place was because, I seen you online, I was going through, and then that's when I hit the, pixel and you're not running ads." But then I just cut it at that point. I just say basically why I was getting in contact is because of these things, but, I'm not going to talk to you now. Do you have some time? And we'll either arrange a call or I'll come see you from that point.
Yeah. That's a really nice way, because you're right. No, I mean, even if whether or not you sent an email, no one's going to remember it,
Yeah,
right? Because how many emails do people receive as far as spam go on a day anyway, on a day-to-day basis?
exactly.
So that's a really key thing. See, I see I trialed out a funny bit of outreach when it comes down to getting past the gatekeeper. So like for example, I'll be like, "Hey, can I speak to John?" And the gatekeeper will be like, "Yeah, sure." Like, "Who's speaking?" I'll be like, "It's Asim." He knows what it's about though, and then they'll still dig deeper and be like, "Can I ask what it's regarding?" I'll be like, "I'd love to, but unfortunately I can't disclose that. It's something I need to speak to him directly about."
Uh,
Um, and then you usually, depending on the business, because if it's a small business in an office, they typically think they've put you on hold. And instead, they just put the phone. They will hold the phone in the
yeah,
air and just whisper to John, "Hey, John, Asim's on the phone." And John will be like, "Who the fuck's Asim?" Right? And then anyway, 90% of the time, the business owner will think it's like the tax man. So you get through anyway, because now you've sparked interest in who this is. And then yeah, usually you get straight through. And sometimes the objection you get straight away with the type of outreach that I found with that is the business owner just straight up says sometimes, "All right, can you send me an email?"
yeah,
Right? Because they're probably busy, 90% of the time.
Mhm.
And then I usually just go and say, you know, and again, I actually see this in a YouTube video, which is super helpful. But with that objection, you'd be like, you know, I'd absolutely love to send you an email, but I just really find it hard to convey everything that I need to say in that email. So I can just pop in for 10 minutes and I promise not to waste your time. And then before that, you don't end the sentence there. You just say, right, how's Friday at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
And sometimes you get an objection, but I found that that worked really, really well.
Mhm.
Um, and again, getting past like gatekeepers are the biggest pain in the ass ever.
It's the hardest part of this entire owning an agency is gatekeepers. It's the worst part.
It really is because they feel this sense of entitlement where they can reject you and you're not getting through. Like I even had someone, um, this was a furniture company and they're a high-end furniture company. Like the prices of their furniture were ridiculous, right?
Mhm.
And like they were posting on Facebook, but the quality of what they were posting in comparison to the price of their furniture was just ludicrous. It was absolutely mental. And I remember getting through to the gatekeeper and she told me, no, it's all right. She doesn't want marketing because we do it in house. And I was like, well, that's fine, but I just think you're doing a really bad job because the gatekeeper would just be really rude
Yeah.
at that time. So sometimes I think it's important. You don't want to always be too polite in that sort of perspective if someone's going to completely shut you down. And I have actually had a long conversation with the gatekeeper and just absolutely thrown so much detail to them on like a 5 minute call where they just passed me over to the owner at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in the marketing space has probably had at least one or two little spits with gatekeepers. I mean, I don't think anyone has ever had an agency and not had a bit of an argument with a gatekeeper when the gatekeeper, as you said, says, "Oh yeah, they're not interested," and you're like, "Right, well, are you a business? Are you one of the business owners? Sorry, or are you in the marketing department?" They're like, "No, no, but they're not interested. We do it in house." And I think everyone's had that little argument where you're like, "Well, actually." This is why I'm getting in contact because you do it in house and you're not. And then they get a little bit sly with it and they get a little bit smarmy with it. And then I think everyone's had a little bit. I've had multiple arguments with gatekeepers, to be frank. I've,
Yeah.
I have arguments with them all the time.
But that's the thing. It's so hard to always be polite in that perspective. But of course, like you don't be too rude to them, but you do sometimes need to be sulky back to them because otherwise it just destroys you mentally. I think
Yeah,
personally, and you've got to just laugh it off sometimes and just go on to the next one.
especially in a niche like ours where, maybe 8 out of 10 phone calls are negative phone calls anyway. I think sometimes when you're being nice all the time and you get one that's just being a little bit extra cheeky to you, I think it's acceptable just to give it back at that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. See, I really like your outreach though when it comes down to cold calling. See, what another type of outreach that I would do. I try to avoid the whole "I know you're busy" sentence, which is so hard to do because I feel like it does just come out,
Mm.
and unless you really sort of train yourself to make sure it doesn't, but it's really structured just to accidentally say that. But I try to avoid that. So, for example, if I go in with another outreach, if I get straight through to the owner, I just spark that curiosity, like, "Hey, John, how's it going? It's Asim. So I was meant to call you about an hour ago, but I completely forgot. I've been tied up in a meeting, so I thought I'd just quickly give you a call before I head into the next one. Just randomly came across your Facebook page. Love what you're doing, and I know well when it comes down to your ads and so forth. It depends on the company, but again, that Facebook pixel. When you mention the Facebook pixel, that's such a key
Yeah.
thing because that 90% of time throws people off.
Hmm.
Because even if they're running ads, so it'd be like, I noticed you're running ads, but for some weird reason, the Facebook pixel wasn't showing up. But hey, look, I'm in the area. I just wanted to pop in and just share some ideas with you because I've got some really cool tips that I think will benefit you in a big way in terms of your profit margins. And that works. That works as well. I think tonality is what it is ultimately.
Definitely, yeah. It's how you convey it and how you articulate as well. When I go into calls, I try to not script it, but I try to know what my points are. Anytime I'm getting on a phone call or anything audio, I always try to make sure I know my points, so I don't have so many ums and ahs and little breaks. And I think you'll know from YouTube that I think it's just something that you pick up over time, that you know better how to articulate each conversation. That you will slow certain things down when you know you're still thinking, if that makes sense, and then
Yeah.
know how to take gaps and the little thinking breaks without having to and kind of stutter over your words to get there.
Yeah. And I think that's so hard to avoid no matter what level you're at with your sales. But ultimately the biggest skill in any, well, especially in marketing, but majority of businesses, is just being able to know how to sell with your voice.
Yeah,
That is one of the biggest skills that can change your life completely.
100%. And
Because
definitely have a voice for radio or a voice for podcasts.
yeah, that yeah.
When you talk, it's like when I first listened to one of your, or when I first watched one of your YouTube videos, instantly I was like, that's a voice for radio, much so.
Yeah. See, that's another thing. Again, it's just tonality, really, and being able to switch into. Actually, that's another thing. Matching someone else's tonality. Again, that's still an affluent, but that's another skill. And I think it's so powerful, right? It's being able to match that tone of the person's voice on the other end,
Yeah,
because that weirdly works all the time. Because it tones you down as well as opposed to your usual self. See, when I done like my first couple of cold calls, it was really funny because I sat on the phone like a little bitch once for like 30 minutes, right, being schooled by this guy who owned a chauffeur company. And the guy, like, all credit to him, right? Because we are in a time when technology is advancing, and fair enough, like if I was to speak to my granddad about his business, like I know for a fact my granddad would just not go through Facebook ads because he's stuck in his mindset that, 40, 50 years ago, his business model works and it still works today. So yeah, when I was speaking to this guy on the phone, so he was just telling me, he's been in there been in that industry for the last 20, 30 years. Facebook ads do not work because his business is extremely successful. And yeah, I basically sat there like a kid on the other phone, just saying, yeah, no, I agree. No, you're right. And see, the biggest thing there was I didn't have the balls to object him for
yeah.
some weird reason. So that dude just completely took control of the conversation. And then, funny enough, like I came across another guy, and he was just extremely rude. He basically said to me that he's already made it, and I quote, "made it." Um, it was crazy. And then you also get the meetings where you just get completely stood up, right? Because I spoke to this guy on the phone, and funny enough, he actually put a job listing on Indeed, right? Um, that's another way to also do outreach. So this dude put a job listing out for a social media manager, etc., etc. So I gave the guy a call. Super cool dude on the phone. We were speaking for about 10 minutes, arranged a meeting, and he completely stood me up, just didn't show up whatsoever. And I waited there for like half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
He ignored all calls and everything. And like, so that sucks, and that really demotivates you. But these are things that just happen in this industry.
And I think, do you get it as well? Obviously, you're definitely going to get this, where you have a meeting, seems like it went really well, person's happy, they're like, yeah, like follow up with me on this day at this time. I'm already like 99% there. I just need to confirm it or something like that there. And then you're like, yep, cool. And then you go to ring them, and 3 days of phone calls, and you still can't get them.
Yeah, I stopped doing that. So I was exactly in that situation. Happened time in and time out, right? Because you give them time to think.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it depends on the industry, but typically, most times they'll rather talk with their business partner, or they'll literally talk with like their wife or husband, because again, it's a financial thing, right? And they're going to always see it as a liability at the beginning, right?
Hmm.
Um, and like you'll get people as well, like they would say, "Well, I can just go ahead and get an apprentice to do exactly all this," which is great. Like, go ahead and get an apprentice, but you've got to pay minimum wage, so you're still going to be paying my service charge. And on top of that, you're going to be paying it to someone who absolutely doesn't know what they're doing in this industry.
Exactly.
So you're just like you're just wasting money. But like, yeah, if you want to go ahead and do that in some sort of sense, yeah, it will be cheaper. But like when it comes down to the whole follow up question, when I get to the end of that meeting, um, this is something that I've grown recently. And again, it's all about having the confidence to do it, and it takes time, right? And you got, like, from what I found, role playing really just
Hmm.
kind of gave me the balls to do this in real life. And it's like when they say, okay, great, can you send me or like give me a call in a couple of days, and then yeah, like, well, I'm going to sign the contract, etc., etc. Like, I even had someone that said to me, the contract's yours. You're definitely going to get this deal. Like, it's fine. I definitely want to do this with you. I just got to speak to my business partner. And I didn't get that deal. That deal was no longer mine after that. And I kept learning that. And then, like, literally day in and day out. So when that happens, And it's such a great skill to be able to have, right? And sometimes I still get nervous like doing it, but you look them dead in the eye and you say, 90% of the time when people say that to me, it's because they're not convinced of what I've said in this meeting. Like, you don't feel like this is going to be beneficial for you. And like when you're looking at them, do smile. Like, don't just go, don't frown at them. Like, just smile and be friendly, but like laugh when you're saying it, right? Make it like a joke. And then they'll be like, no, no, no. I do know like what you're giving me is value. I just need to literally confirm it because I'm not the decision maker, but they are the decision maker. Like, you already know that. And somehow like another business partner randomly springs into place, but they just say that to get you out of the door. So then if that is the case, just say, all right, what will it take to me to walk out of a deal right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because you say, like, I've come in here because I want to cut a deal regardless, because I know I can help you, right? I want to make the deal today. What would it take for you to do this deal right here, right now?
Yeah.
Is it the price? And most times it will be the price.
Hmm.
It will actually be the price, but you have to literally pull that out of them. And again, it's important to give them eye contact as well,
Of course.
because it just makes them, without, like, you don't want to be a bully, but like it just makes them feel a bit like they need to be honest with you now. Like, they can't lie to you in some sort of way.
Yeah. I mean,
So
the one I'm actually talking about is because you'll understand it because it's a restaurant, and the meeting was last week, and funny you said about it might be the money. It actually, I think, wasn't an issue with money because this guy was super nice. We were chatting the whole way through, having a coffee, and like he even said himself, we talked about the money side of it. I hit him with a quote. He had it wrote down, and he actually pointed at it at the end of the meeting. Was like, not an issue. Like, this is an okay number. We can do this number, no problem. But I need to speak to the other business owner. But the way he put it, he said, she's an older woman. She understands nothing about social media. I make these decisions and she just kind of goes, yeah, that's not a problem. She gives the final stamp. But he said then, he was like, yep, this number's fine. I know we can do this. We're excited to be doing this. Give me a call on this day. Because they had an agency they worked with before. And what they said with their last agency was, them people were very pushy in terms of saying you need to run this campaign and you need to do this offer, and they didn't want that. And I, went in very specifically saying, I'm not your business manager, I'm your marketer. So whatever you want to market, I'll market for you, and I might make some advisements on what changes to make on things you already want to do, but I'm never going to be, do this, do that. And the meeting went fantastic. And we were having a conversation about the podcast that they record in that restaurant as well and stuff like that. So it was a very good, positive meeting. But still at the end of it, he was 100%, he might as well have signed on the spot. And I feel like if I'd done what you said and actually made sure to walk out on the spot, that would have been a lot better. And I mean, usually meetings are fine. Once I get past the gatekeeper, once I have that phone conversation, I set up the meeting, I know majority of the time I'm going to kill it when I go for a meeting. Not a problem.
yeah. And do you know what? That's a good point. So you didn't hear back from this owner, right? Or you have?
No, so meeting I was actually supposed to call them on Wednesday. Called them on Wednesday, no answer. Called them on Thursday, no answer. Left them a voicemail on Friday, and I
Yeah.
last call today, and that's it. So hit it and
See, yeah. See, I've been in so many situations like that, and it sucks so much. See, the thing is, I mean, first of all, like, whether or not you get through to this person, it's a learning curve, right? And that's the whole fun process of this, right? Because you now know what to do the next time you get into that meeting, for example. Um, Another thing, I mean, did you know there were two business owners when you went to them, or?
no. So it was a weird one anyway, to be honest, mate. So when I rang up, I'd got the business owner's name from Company's House. Same as always.
Right.
Contacted, said that name, that wasn't the owner. So I was talking to the owner, and he was like, "No, no, no, that's not the owner. I'm the owner." And I was like, "All right, cool, no problem." And usually at that point, you panic yourself a bit. You're like, "Shit, I've got the wrong name." Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Kind of like, "Oh, no problem. That's my bad. That's the name I was passed across when I was going to give you a call." And he was like, "Yeah, it's no problem. Here's my email address." At the time, it was a couple of weeks ago. He was like, "Yeah." we're a bit busy now getting things set up for social distancing. Can you give me a call in 2 weeks and we'll have a chat? Followed up, and I mean, 2 weeks later, he was still happy. He wanted me to come in and talk to him, and he pushed Len to have the meeting, which is why I'm so bloody confused now as to why he won't fucking answer the phone or ring me back.
Yeah. See, do you know what? There's another way you could have gone about that. It depends on the type of person, but like ultimately, it would have been his signature going on that paper, right?
That's what.
So yeah, see, so it wouldn't have been her signature. So usually, what I would do, so if I've only ever done this once, but it did work for the first time I ever did do it. I've never done it since, but I was in a situation where they did say that, and again, this is after my rejection day in and day out, but um, I basically said, all right, great. What day will you be able to go ahead with this then, right? Because if they've already said to you in that meeting that they're all right for it, don't forget, they essentially, if it is going to be a situation where they've got to speak to a business owner, it's almost like going back to square one and see them as like the gatekeeper again. They're going to have to pitch what you've just pitched them, and they're never going to be able to do it as good as you did. So what I would do, if you know they're absolutely certain and it's their signature going on that paper, for example, like today's attempt. So if they said, all right, call me back on the 13th, I'll be like, great, let me amend this contract to the start day of the 13th. Let's just sign this so we've got you basically all signed up and ready to go. And in that way, we don't need to take on any more clients like tomorrow or the day after, just in case, because the demand is a bit high at the moment. So let's just get you on our books. And that way, if they're not going to sign at that moment in time, because basically if you sign today, you're essentially signing for the 13th. Again, I've only ever done this once, but that could be a situation that works because it also shows whether or not it confirms to you whether or not they are serious and if you are going to get a yes or ever hear back from them.
Yeah,
Do
and
you know what I mean?
if someone's a marketer and they're listening to this podcast right now, go get a pen and paper, rewind this back, sit down and take notes. These are, I mean, even I'm learning from this some things that even I do. This is some real value points for anyone out there that is a marketer or wants to be a marketer or wants to get into it. Seriously, listen to what Asim's saying in this podcast and take notes on it, and because it's very actionable knowledge that you're giving out.
Yeah, because the thing with that contract situation is, right, the second they feel like they've signed it's going to become valid from the 13th in this case, not the 10th.
Yeah.
So in some sort of perspective, you've actually gained control again, because if they are going to cancel it, they've got to contact you to let you know they want to cancel it before the 13th. So it's a win-win. You're going to hear back from them. If not, they've got a legal binding contract just like that.
Nope.
I know it's a bit sleazy in some sort of way, but
it's also
they can just be a sleazy back sometimes. So it's important to not waste your time as much as anybody else's. And it just shows the seriousness. Again, it just confirms there and then if you're actually going to hear back from them on the 13th or not. Period.
Yeah, or not at all. Exactly. So do you do all your outreach yourself? Obviously, you have an agency. Do you have actual paid staff, or do you just use freelancers when need be? How do you have your
No.
up there?
So I'm a one-man army.
That's it.
At the moment, yeah. See, I'm basically waiting until I'm forced, which is always a good way. Because I know it's important. Like a lot of people do always go ahead and get to a stage where it's like, all right, I can just afford to maybe go and get someone to do my outreach for me. But like if you know that it might take an extra hour or two off your day to do it yourself, still, it's important to reduce your costs, right, and be as much profitable. So sure, it's not the greatest of things to be able to want to do sometimes, but until you're absolutely forced to go ahead and get someone to do it, I think that's only when you should do it. With my outreach at the moment, so do you know what's funny? Like obviously because of COVID, that's just literally, you can call this year like basically non-existent, because it's probably been one of the most difficult years for every single business owner in every sort of industry. But I think it's taught a lot of people a lot of things. But like Instagram outreach is really good that I found recently. Because it's super responsive as well. And then see where my agency sort of diverted as well to influencer marketing, it sort of balanced itself out. So typically with my existing network, if a brand just reaches out, I literally just make that connection from some sort of that initial outreach, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like Instagram outreach throughout COVID has been great, because again, a lot of people are just like hanging out on their phone, and I think a lot of people have learned that they need to go on social media as well.
Exactly. Now, do you have do you have anyone that does your content for you, or are you just
Nope.
all round one man band?
One man band at the moment.
Oh,
So I'll do this all by myself. Yeah.
that's good. I mean, I will say, in terms of outreach, one man band. In terms of content, not so much. I do all my, because obviously I have my split Johnny Thompson personal brand and my marketing agency. So I put out all content for my personal brand is myself. Content
Yeah.
for my agency, I do have freelancers only because I focus a lot on the advert side and my personal brand side. So when it comes to the content, it's easier for me to outsource that to freelancers.
Of course. Well, no, in that sense, it makes sense. Yeah, because
And
if you've
for
got
lead generation,
different priorities.
I don't when it comes not even for clients. I mean, for myself, for my own outreach, I I just can't. I just hate lead generation. I've done it. Everyone obviously has to grind it out themselves and do it at the start. But I just got to the point where, because I am so focused on all the other elements and the other pillars of my business, outreach is probably lead generation for outreach purposes is probably the easiest thing I found to outreach, because you just put people on commission. I just put them on
Yeah.
commission for the first 3 months. First 3 months with that client, they get a 10 or 15% commission, and that's based on how many jobs they bring, like how many clients they bring in, and how many meetings I'm able to get from them. So how good quality their leads are.
Right.
Be 10 to 15%, and that's incremental and increases as well incrementally over time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think lead gen is definitely a pain in the ass for everyone. I think it very much depends though. I mean, like if you're like cold outreach, right, like, as in cold calling, that's difficult because you're actually literally doing that, and it's there and then. It's like you're going to get a yes or no
Hmm.
more or less on that phone call. Like you're either going to get to the gatekeeper and it's a waste of time, so you've got to follow it up. As opposed to Instagram DMs, I kind of feel like that kind of works in autopilot in some sort of perspective, because like you can reach out to 50 business owners today, right, just for Instagram.
Exactly.
Um, and then like over the course of the next like 2 3 days, these guys are just bouncing back to you. Do you see what I mean?
Exactly.
Um, and do you know what? There's another thing I wanted to just quickly mention as well. I don't know, do you send Loom videos to your clients, or well,
I
videos?
yeah, but mine is kind of like, because I had to restructure my entire outreach because of the COVID situation. It just wasn't working, and I
Right.
incorporated Looms, but it's more a case of, after I send the email, do the cold call. If they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I seen your email," or "Yeah, like, can you send me over some more information?" I'm never sending an email. I'm just sending them a Loom, because
Yeah.
I find some people I've spoke to, obviously within the affluent mastermind group, some people sort of don't do looms because they try to say that it takes too long, or I pretty much find if I do a loom, I do it in one take. It's 3.5, 4 minutes, and it's sent. It's a 10-minute thing to make a loom, really.
Yeah, it more or less is. Yeah, like, I know people that can master like a 3 or 4 minute one, but it's so hard to get to that point.
Yeah.
So do you know what? Something I quickly wanted to mention when it comes down to meetings, it's important. I don't know if do you always have like a plan B when you're at a meeting, like for the final like decision of that meeting. Like if they say no, do you typically have a plan B?
In terms of what? Sorry, what's the context?
In terms of like what you're offering to that person, like would you have a structured plan B, or do you kind of work on the spot for that?
Yeah, well, I just kind of freeball, because I never go in and say that I'm going to do this, this, and this, because I know obviously with you MME, you have your individual packages you have as options, which
Yeah.
whereas my it's kind of like, in my head I know my pricing structure, but the client doesn't. So I know if they want brand management, or they want website, or they want the different elements, and I kind of know how to price that together in my head. Plus, I also, because I work through a multitude of niches, and they are very different in terms of financial sustainability, and like financial, or having the money there and the spare asset to put it into marketing, and
Right.
they're going to get out. So, like, I know that in my martial arts clients, I know that they're going to make a lot less money in the short term compared to like my scalp micropigmentation clinic. Whereas I know in
Right.
the long term, the lifetime value is actually more from my martial arts class. So I'm better to sign a lower retainer on a longer contract, as opposed to the micropigmentation clinic, where I would just aim for a higher sales revenue, because I know it's not going to be a full time thing. I know they're going to need to cut back on marketing at a certain point, because they're going to have full books, because they can only do so much in a day.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really good tip, but I think everyone would basically benefit from, providing you can actually offer it. So I use it quite a lot, and it works like a charm, right? When it comes down to objections. So you've done your meeting, you've offered your value and X, Y, and Z, and they're happy, but then it becomes like a pricing reason if it's that. If you know it's 100% a pricing reason, as in, like I said, they literally basically say it's too expensive and they're not happy to pay that on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
A plan B, right, is always, of course, ask them, do you see the value? If they do, happy days, because you can do this. So basically, what you would say is, okay, well, how would you feel? I actually, in this case, just create you a bespoke strategy, right? A step-by-step guide on how you can do this yourself, right? So you can go ahead and literally all you got to do is follow the steps. And if you don't get a result in 30 days, I'll give you your money back. You'll get a full refund for the price of the strategy, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is where it works interesting because the first thing you do is you make this strategy so in depth, right? That it's going to be so time consuming in some sort of perspective, right? Second of all, you've got to make sure there's a realistic budget in there, what they need to be spending in ads. And thirdly, they must show you that if they do want a refund at the end, that they've actually taken the action in that in that tutorial, and they've actually followed your ad structure and so forth, which you do actually create bespoke to them, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just like a copy and paste. But they basically need to do every single step you've taken. Now, it goes two ways, all right? Um, the first option is they'll go ahead and probably they might go ahead and do the cheaper option and hire like an apprentice or a student, whatever, right? And just give it to them. Just give them the strategy and be like, hey, just follow this, and I'll fund like 150 quid, 200 quid off the ads, because they're going to try and pull a cheap one, right? Instantly it gives them a weird mentality because they feel better paying like an apprentice wage, because they feel like they've got a staff member, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
they kind of feel like they've got their money's worth, as opposed to me paying you like a grand, Johnny, and you're not even in my office, right? Or in my restaurant. So in that sense, it's a weird mental game there. They feel like they've got a staff member. And then second of all, either it won't work because they haven't followed the strategy correct. So they'll come back and they'll want a refund, whatever it may be. But of course, basically you can then upsell them at that point and be like, well, you haven't followed this, you need to do this, but they'll have some type of result,
Yeah.
right? You're guaranteed to get a result in that thing. Absolutely. And a result can literally be a person, like one like on a picture.
Yeah.
That's a result. Okay. A comment, whatever type of engagement, that is a result. And then the second thing is, and this is what is more likely to happen, they will actually try it themselves, right? Or they'll give it to someone like their son or daughter or whatever. They'll keep it really close in house, and they just realize this is really time consuming, but it works. Like, there's so much value in this. So like, they've got it, they know it can work, and they know they can overtake competition, but they've actually come to the decision that, hey, I just don't have the time to do this. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to contact another marketing agency and basically ask them who if they can do this? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to give you a call back and be like, right, can you just do this for me?
Yeah.
And then you've got a retainer like that as well, because they've actually visually seen the value that you can offer them, and at the same time they've just purchased a strategy as well.
Yeah. And I do that in terms of like, uh, if someone, well, I don't know, you might do the same. I don't offer strategies, but we offer like half day trainings. So if someone's like, look, I can't afford that as a monthly retainer, for a couple of months, then we offer to sit down and go, well, look, we can do a 4.5, 5 hour training day with you where, someone in your marketing department or you yourself, we'll do a full session where we'll sit down and kind of teach you how to do the basics and, how to, set up a pixel, how to create an audience and how to do it. But then I kind of use my case studies to go, but if you just in 3 months, if you've made enough money that you can pay us, these are the results we can generate. So you can get a good base, make a bit of money yourself. But then when you want to go to the next level and you want to really skyrocket that investment, then you can come to us again. And as you say, who else are they going to go to once they see it's going a little bit better? They'll go, oh, well, they taught me how to do this. So obviously they can do better. And you generate the custom that way.
That's a really good thing to do, actually. I've never actually personally thought of that, but you're right. I mean, that probably works great, because if they got someone in house and they're considered the marketing person,
Yeah. And
that's a good idea. So you charge for that 4 hours, right? Of course, and then
Yeah, so it's a setup day. So we basically charge it as so. I mean, if you were going to charge £800 a month over 3 months, it would be something like, okay, well, it's a £1,300 for that full day, but that sets you up that you can do this in house for as long as you want on a very low scale, because obviously I don't teach them how to test everything and how I don't go into the in depth because obviously that's what they want us to come back for, or we want them to come back for. But I give them enough that they can get a structure in place. They know how to install the Pixel, and we actually help them install the Pixel. And we actually help them set up their business manager and get it all online. And then it's just a case of showing them how to maintain and how to actually continue on the path.
Right. Yeah, no, I've never thought of that. That's a really see, I've just taken good value from that. That's really good. Never thought of that.
And it's good if they don't want to fork out. Or do you know what? I don't know if you're finding it. Some people just don't like a contract. Some people don't like coming on like a 3 term, like a 3 month term. You
Yeah.
understand that that's what you need to see scale, like to see tangible results. You kind of need 3 months to see how it's going to scale up, and then look to move forward. But for some people that can't see that or can't financially afford it, it is a good option to say, well. And some people just kind of look at it and go, well, I think we could do it in house, but we don't know, so we're going to pay you, and you can just help us get it set up.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, that's something I'm definitely gonna try out myself. So that they literally just have to take notes, don't they? So you're not actually giving them something to take away, like, physically, if that makes sense, or
Well,
are you?
so I have like it's not a lot. I mean, it's just a couple of little made up sheets, and it's actually more screen grabs put together, and it's more like a how to for dummies type of book. How to set someone as a person, or how to create a pixel, and it's just like screenshots, and that's just for after the day. If you have any problems, you can get in contact. Plus, we also have a 1 month what do you call it, like a helpline. So for a month, they can have some assistance on that, and that's because just to make sure they get enough value. At the start, I wasn't going to because I thought if you're only paying once, I don't want to be getting followed up all month. But I found that it's very easy to convert people once you've done a half day session and they see that you're actually still invested in helping them be successful for that extra 3 weeks to a month. They usually will,
Right.
you know what, this is hard. We've now seen how hard it is. You've cared enough to be here and to answer a couple of extra questions in the last couple of weeks. We're just going to go ahead and pull the trigger, give us a service agreement.
That's great. Jesus, Johnny. That's a really smart one. That is really good. That is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean,
I
as
like that.
Gordon says, it's the building value enough that they can see, oh yeah, it might be easy to get started, but if you really want to scale and you really want growth in your advertising, you need someone that knows how to do it and is spending their life to try and do this for everyone else.
Yeah, and do you know what? That works in its old sort of business model for what we do because I think, like I said, right, it's that whole mental aspect, right? It depends on the age of the business owner, but like like I mean, for us, we're of course younger, so we're in that generation where we understand technology, we know that in the next 10, 20 years, it's just gonna be crazy. But I think for the people right now, like the older generation, and when I say older generation, I guess it just depends on the person, maybe about technology. But they feel a bit more prestige, yeah, like sending a staff member out to take a course or whatever, and maybe have someone come teach them. Um, yeah, no, I really like that. And then that whole 1 month helpline thing, it just feels pretty prestigious in some sort of way. And again, offering that value. So
Mm-hmm.
it shows, and again, it's paying that amount of money and having a full staff member. I think that's the key thing because some people get weirded out, like paying somebody like, again, it depends how much you're charging, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody's paying even like 600 quid and you're not even in that office,
Mm-hmm.
like they feel like they probably haven't got their money's worth. I know it sounds weird, but like,
Exactly. And it is
I
really is that, and you've just hit it on the head. It is that it's about making them feel valued enough. And I mean, quite frankly, I shoot myself in the foot with it all the time. Like I do go above and beyond for my clients to the point where I have clients that will ring me and ask for business advice. It's not even marketing. Like the campaigns are not even a part of it. They're just asking for general business advice, and I give it. Where I feel like I have enough knowledge to give information and such. But my clients kind of know that regardless if it's marketing or not, if it's going to benefit you as your business, like that's what I see it. I see it as more of a business consultation. Yes, I run all the marketing, but if they need help in other aspects, and sometimes they just go, oh, I was thinking of doing this little picture, and I'm like, send it over. I'm like, we'll do it for you. Don't worry. And they're like, oh, you,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you pay me to do this for you. It's technically marketing, it's a bit of brand, it's brand management. Send it over. I'll do it for you and I'll send you it back. You'll have it tonight. And they're like, that's incredible. Thank you. And I feel like that's testament to how I managed to hold on to clients. I mean, obviously, I lost at the start of COVID. I lost one of my clients, but I feel like that's testament to how I've kept mine is because I work with them. I mean, I had a client during Corona, right in the middle of it, who their ads had started doing well before the virus kicked in. Lockdown came in, and we just weren't doing as well. And it wasn't the marketing; it was just the market was bad. And I actually sat down, and this client was happy to continue paying their retainer as it was. And I actually got on the phone and said, look, I'm not happy with the results you got. So I want to lower your retainer because I know this was a couple of months ago. I knew for the foreseeable future, you're not going to get the results that you originally bought in for and that we originally projected and speculated that you would achieve. So I cut my service charge down and says, instead, whether you put that money in ad budget, because they wanted to cut the ad budget as well. And I
Right.
for having that. So I said, look, I'll take less, but every penny that you're not giving me, put into your ad budget instead, because it's really where you need the money is in your ad budget. And I'd rather keep them signed for an extra 6 months at a slightly lower budget, just till they ride out the wave of coronavirus, land to lose them altogether after 2 months because I've kept them on a full service charge and now they no longer can afford it. Whereas
See, that builds trust, and I think, like, yeah, like if I was a client of yours, like I would definitely get that sense where I can trust this guy, and he actually genuinely cares about my business.
and that's it, and that's all. And I mean, it sounds a bit sobby, but it is what I'm here for, and it's what I would assume most marketers are here for. I've had regular jobs, I've done all this and that, but I really get my kicks out of watching other people just absolutely kill it. You know what I mean? Like I want
Yeah,
people to, when I see someone else go from A to B and you can see tangible results and they're physically happy and it's made an effect on their life and their family, that's when I know I've done okay. Do you know what I mean the financial reward is secondary to knowing that someone else has now become successful and I had a hand in that and I helped them get there?
yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. Like something really small, like just getting a text message from a client, it really, really makes you feel good. It
100.
really does. I think that's the beauty of every type of business. But I think no matter what you were selling or whatever, like if you get a happy customer, it's just such a good feeling. Johnny, out of curiosity, when you said like you'd cut your service charge, like how much lower would you go, for example, then? Like how much would you actually knock off for that monthly
Uh,
payment?
well, I basically that's very rude, but the client wanted to cut one of their ads off, so that was £5 a day, so it was £150, and I cut off. Well, we'll just, but I would say I cut over £150 off their service charge. Um, it was close. Where did I go from? It was, well, it actually seems a lot now I'm saying it is closer to the 250, £300 range I dropped off.
Right.
Which
Fair enough.
I can hear it in your voice. That's a significant amount to drop.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's solid because like sure, I mean it is taking that dive, but like the client would feel bad like now if they just throw you off. But they've put that money into the ads, right?
And yes, and he said 100. And I mean, this client didn't want a discount. This client came on this call at the end of the first term, and he was going to continue paying the increasing the severely high service charge. And it was me that said to him, well, he said he wanted to cut an ad, and I then instantly on the spot was like, nope. I'm like, if you cut an ad, there's no point us even working together because it's not going to get results. I'm like, I need this budget to be able to go. So it's either we don't work together or you get pissed off after 2 months because we're not generating results to really substantially cover what we're putting in. So it was just a case of on the spot. I was like, look, I need to keep you happy. And I know he's a really nice guy. Like we're really friendly now and we talk almost every day. So and I mean it's a martial arts club and I'm a martial artist. So and it's actually right beside where I live. So it's self-beneficial to me to be on good terms with him because I can go and train there regularly. So it works in both ways and we're good friends now and that's why. And I told him very straight, I said, look, I'm not happy. you haven't got the results that I wanted in the last month and a half. At the start, it was good, and now it's dropped off. And I don't feel like I've provided the service that you paid for. So I feel like it's just right that I want to keep you happy, and I like working with you. You're one of my favorite clients. So I'm going to take a hit because I know in 6 months, when you're killing it again, that you're going to be happy to renegotiate this. And he was like, I can't believe you're actually dropping it in the first place. He says, 100%. He's like, now me and like, he basically said, look, I know you're solid now. He says, I know that I can trust you, as you said, and that that you're here for the long term. I know you're not just trying to drag a couple of grand out of me and that's it. Like, you're here to actually see me do better. And from that point, he was happy. And I believe it'll probably be my best client for a long time.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That really is client communication and relationships. That's really good. That's a really good thing to do, Johnny. Honestly, that's class because
And
it builds that trust. That is
even
like
better,
bang on.
I actually got a reward from it. So uh, I offer a referral scheme, same as Jordan sort of preaches. I ordered a 10% referral scheme. And he's always trying to, get me referrals here and there. But I mean, just after I gave him that discount, he hooked me up with a brand new client. This is if actually what I mentioned, the scalp micropigmentation clinic. So I mean, and you'll know because you're in the space of marketing that and that's a higher ticket client for me coming into the agency. So um,
Yeah,
clinic, and it's an aesthetic cosmetic clinic. He brought me out as a referral, so he's now getting an extra 10% off. And I mean, he was confused, and I was like, no, I was like, I'll give you I give you the discount 2 months ago, so this is just your flat service charge. So now you get 10% off as well because you brought me a referral. And he's losing his mind with happiness because he's shit. I'm getting another 10%. This is freaking awesome. But in my book, I've now just landed a high ticket cosmetic clinic, so
of
it's
course. Yeah,
win, and we both understand that we're both trying to make money, we're both trying to run a business, but at the same time we're both trying to better over people's lives. I'm trying to better over businesses, and he's trying to better the children that he teaches and the adults and the parents that come as well. So he's trying to make a difference, and so am I.
right. That's spot on. That's a really good thing to do. It's all about the long term and like the pigmentation clinics, like you said, like yeah, they're higher ticket and plus they're so hard to get through to, like to the owners and even like they give you the time of day because they're actually so busy.
Yeah, exactly. And this, I say, it was a referral, and it's a win-win for me because they're actually in the same building. The martial arts club had like excess office space adjacent, and this micropigmentation clinic is using one of these spaces. So if I go to see one client, I can see both.
Right. That's class. That's really good.
It's very handy. I actually wanted to use this to try and transition across a little bit to you guys and what you do in your influencer marketing. If you want to sort of give a quick explanation of what influencer marketing is and how you guys use that within your agency.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, I mean, I've worked with a lot of big conglomerate brands, and that's purely because of my networking over literally like the last 7, 8 years through YouTube. So depending on what the brand is and so forth. So let's say like you're like again, it's more sort of niche down to gaming, but let's say you're a gaming company and you've just launched a new app or whatever it may be. Um, if we already know each other, let's say we do, or we've got mutual friends and so forth. So typically it sort of balances off in that perspective. So you'd come to me and be like, hey, Asim, I've got I'm launching this new game. It's called X, Y, and Z, whatever. It's available on the App Store. Um, and the Android Google Play Store, whatever it may be, and Steam. Steam's quite big as well. But I'm looking for influencers to promote this. Now, it can go in two ways, right? So, for example, you can get a company that would literally give you their ad spend in terms of what they can afford to distribute over to different influencers. So when I say they'll give it to you, they won't literally give it to you, but you know what I mean. Like they'll tell you that figure and where they can push to over X amount of influencers. So let's say, for example, like their budget was like 15 or 20 grand, but that has to literally push over to like 20 influencers. How it would work is I would basically match you to that deal. So if you actually meet their requirements, so like let's say your audience are actually gaming, mobile gaming, for example, that's a big important factor as well. And you're pulling in X amount of views consistently, right? Then you're a match for that. Now it's important, like I don't care how many subscribers you do have. Like, I couldn't give a crap if you had like 1 million subscribers or 10,000. If you're pulling in those views, it's so key. Like, that's the highlight of it. So going back to the client's ad spend, whatever, it would be like 15, 20 grand, whatever, but you got to distribute that. Now, this is where it gets a bit sticky because influencers do charge a lot of money if they know they're bringing in a lot of views. And from my experience, what I found is, sorry, Johnny, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
All right, yeah, perfect. Okay, so from my experience, what I found is that an influencer could have a lot of subscribers, but their views are nowhere near what they should be getting, but they still feel like they have that ability to charge a lot of money. But that's definitely not the case. So sometimes you could find yourself in a pickle like that where you've matched a person and it's a great deal for both the client and the influencer, but the influencer is stuck in their way and their prices are ridiculous. And you know for a fact that it's not going to drive sales, right? Because their views are so low and their engagement. So you'll find yourself in a situation like that. But let's say it wasn't that and it was happy days. You've matched both ends. What I would then do is the influencer never knows the person, like they'll never have contact with the person whose game it is, for example. So your direct point of contact would be with MME London. That's it. So as far as you're aware, we're just giving you the deal, all payment goes for us and so forth. But what that allows me to do is work in two different types of ways. So we can either work on a commission structure where it would be a CPI, which is a cost per install. So of course, if it was an app, it needs to get X amount of installs, so then get X amount back in return, which in turn can actually work a lot for an influencer. I mean, they can pull in thousands if they know they're going to be able to get that on top of a flat fee. If not, if you did just have a flat fee, for example, let's say if you said to me, okay, right, I know Johnny's pulling in like a couple of million views per month, but I know those millions of views are actually coming in consistent and he's not just got a one-off hit video this month or like 3-4 years ago that's just randomly blown up. So I know consistently you're pulling in like 50 to 100,000 views per video and your engagement is great. You're getting like a couple thousand likes per video. So I now know your engagement is great. And then you said to me, okay, you know, my fee is like 1,500 quid, and that could either be for a mention, right? So with a mention, it would be like promo in the video where they'll just basically shout out the product, well, the game in this case, sorry, or app, for literally like 60 seconds, and they'll get like the 1,500 quid. But on top of that, they need to put it in their community tab and their social accounts. But in turn, I can then make like a small margin from that. So I can say, for example, okay, great. We basically do it for 2 grand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's where the influencers price me 1,500, but we've then added our charges on top of that, which would be like 500 quid. And then that gets billed to the actual brand itself, who then pay an invoice. But again, we get invoiced by the influencer. So everything goes through us. So we're the middleman in that connection, but we're just creating that link, but nothing goes above us, if that makes sense.
So do you have to actually go, do you outreach these businesses and brands as well? And so do you actually outreach influencers and agencies, or is it all inbound with this?
So it depends. So I have started to do outreaching only recently, and that's been more for gaming PCs. Um, and that's just sort of linking influences with that. But again, because it feels weird, see, because how I've worked with diving into the influencer marketing scene is, again, going based off my previous years on YouTube, right? So being able to actually make these connections with these people prior to that. So what I've done is I've got a couple of influencers under my belt that are like sort of they're ready to sign, well, providing they do match the deal again, but basically on board for whatever deal. So I've got a few influencers with like a couple million subs. In total, like some have like, well, there's 2 of them that have over 300 million views. And there's one that has like 186 million views in total. And then another dude has got another channel, which is crazy because that second channel has less subs, but it's doing better than the main. But these are guys that are like, they're sort of ready to go type of thing. Most times what I would do though, is just with my existing network, because a lot of these people do actually have companies that are actually talent management already for them.
Yeah.
So technically it'd be a breach for them to do that, but most influencers are up for a good deal nonetheless. So they're happy to really go under the radar and go ahead and do another deal privately as opposed to going through that network, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that happens. Like one thing with influencers is they're technically not loyal. As long as the deal is good, they're happy to go ahead with that. But for me, it's kind of been a perk just because I've had sort of straightforward access to these influencers, whereas most people would actually need to go through their talent management because they've got custom emails and so forth. So in that sense, it's kind of a perk, and then vice versa with the brands that I've actually worked with as well. So, I mean, throughout my time, I've been able to work with Oculus Rift for the VR,
That's it.
BenQ, Tops. They're like an American company that deal with car games through
Mhm.
the App Store. There's a company called Instinct Gaming where you can purchase like PC games for a website, etc. So these are like really big companies. 2K Games I've worked with personally in the past, alongside with Ubisoft as well. So in that sense, it's been great because, for example, with certain ways of doing outreach to get more out there. For example, like with 2K Games, I was actually in a negotiation where I'm actually happy to do influencer marketing for free for a certain amount of time, but they're actually dealing with that stuff, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. But that's purely just to try and get the opportunity to kind of gain another case study for myself and just say that, hey, I've worked with 2K Games through MME as opposed to my personal brand, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Um, but influencer marketing is great because you can also work on a percentage. Now, this works great when it comes down to like beauty products as well. And the reason I say beauty products or just a beauty niche on Instagram is because that is huge,
Yeah.
right? And like when it comes into comparison with engagement and so forth, not to sound sexist or anything like this, but like guys, if we see another guy promoting like, I don't know, like a beard trimmer,
Yeah.
we don't really give a shit.
No.
Like we're not going to go ahead and buy it because this dude has gone ahead and trimmed his beard and it looks good. Like we're just not going to do that. As opposed to like I've got sisters and my wife and sister-in-laws and so I know how this works. Like I can see these guys getting influenced by other people like consistently, and it works all the time for any type of product, right?
Yeah.
And with these guys, with influencers, especially on Instagram, they typically work on a commission based majority of the time, providing you do have a good deal.
Yeah.
And this is a test for all of you guys, right? Including you, Johnny, if you've got some time. Go ahead, go on Alibaba, find the beauty product, right, that is good, that you feel like is cheap and it's got good profit margins. Go ahead and just outreach to a lot of like beauty influencers on Instagram and literally work on a 50-50 commission scheme. So like they get 50% per sale, right? And the people that are on board, once you've got people on board for that, go ahead and make a Shopify store for a 14-day free trial. Go ahead and launch this product and it'll be profitable, guaranteed.
Just drop ship it.
100%.
100%.
Like, and that just because it shows the power of influencer marketing, providing they've got good engagement. But like you do get the odd people that again that want to go ahead and do like flat fees. But with influencer marketing, with Instagram, it works great on a commission basis.
So is there a difference for you? Because you used to do influencer marketing, but you also have talent management as an element. Do you find that that's actually pretty much just the same thing, or do you very stingently separate your influencer marketing from straight talent management?
I separate that because, for example, if it was like talent management, okay, so let's say like a company reached out to me again, and like it's a company I've never worked with before, but they've seen like the list of influencers. See, the thing is, like, you will never get an influencer that will pay you monthly, right, to manage them. That's just non-existent. Um, every influencer management, talent management company, whatever it may be, always take a cut out of what that influencer earns.
Yeah.
Like, for example, with YouTube, like I work with a company in LA and they manage like loads of different types of channels, but I don't pay them. They just take a percentage out of whatever's earned for that month. So it could be like 10% or whatever it may be. But with talent management, you can go in a different way. So sometimes you can work with a client and find out that you can actually get more because sometimes it might be the brand that just don't want to pay the person
Yeah.
X amount because they don't actually see it. So the way you can actually get more money through that is if you guarantee them a set amount of views by the end of that first 30 day of promo, for example. And that's when you sort of go into talent management, because now you've just kind of done work for free in some sort of way,
Mhm.
as far as making a connection goes. And you have to also take that risk of the influencer still needs to be paid, right? So it's important to have your legal binding contracts in place. But 90% of the time, if you say to a brand, right, okay, well, we guarantee you this video is going to get like 2 to 300,000 views in the first 30 days, they'll literally jump up by like 20 or 30% in terms of what they wanted to initially pay that influencer, because you're actually guaranteeing them they're going to get that amount of views.
Result.
So exactly, but then you have to also make sure that that influencer can do that. And then when it comes down to talent management, again, you'll just be helping, giving tips and so forth for making sure that algorithm is going to work for that video.
See, because the reason I asked and I wanted to go down really this line as a main point for the talent management influence market is because it's something I've really been looking at before really I even started my agency for marketing, to be honest. It's something I always have wanted to get into. I mean, I don't know if you know, or if you're a gamer, you'll know who 100 Thieves are.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So you have like 100 Thieves, and I like the reason I mentioned is I like their setup. So I like how he actually Nadeshot has 100 Thieves, then he also has the content houses, and that's where he have. So I've always wanted that sort of business side where I would love to have the money where I can just go buy a 5-bed house, fill it with content creators, and then be. But then again, I don't know where that comes in under talent management, brand management, or you just their manager in general. But I mean, I just enjoy that lifestyle of the content creator lifestyle. So I would love the ability to be able to buy a big house and just put a load of content creators in it and just see what the fuck happens. You know what I mean? And just
yeah,
and then as you said, getting these guys sponsorship deals, getting them influencer marketing deals, um, getting these people in to do things. So my idea would really work around like having like an esports team, and then obviously paying for them to be able to enter competition. Same as if I had like the JT Media skate team or something like that there, and then you pay skaters and you pay their entrance fee, and really just
absolutely.
sponsor them
Yeah,
to see them. And that's where I really want to get to in the long run as a long term goal.
yeah, see, there's a few different ways you can go about that, because of course, like initially there might be like you need capital, but then at the same time, not really, because if you can find like a solid amount of influencers that are happy to go ahead and pay rent as well for that place, like you're not just literally funding everything, then it's a win-win, right? Um, and like I'll give you an example, like from my experience, and again, just network, right? Like back in 2016, um, we got to film for The Apprentice, right? Because these guys were making, I think, yeah, it was a virtual reality game, and they had like 24 hours or something to create it.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not sure if you've heard of Ali A before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like he was there. There was a guy called Phase K as well at that time who just got into Phase. So again, it was all about networking with these guys.
The Fizz is in the esports team, Fizz clan.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy, so like he's a solid example actually. Like that phase is massive. And like this gay guy, sorry, this guy Phase K, at the time we just got into Phase and so forth, and like long story short, he's now moved into their place in LA, and like it's crazy because these guys are absolutely killing it, but they're not esports as much anymore as they used to be. It's more like a content creator type of thing, right? So it's all about them sort of teaming up and so forth, as opposed to like you remember like Optic Gaming. This is where like Nadeshot comes in, right?
Optic was I would say Optic was one of the most OG esports teams.
100%. Yeah, because like if you look at Phase now, it's more like just off their content creation basis, right?
Exactly.
So they've gone through the whole like lavish lifestyle and so forth. And I mean, like in comparison, like you obviously if you know Optic Gaming, you know Hector, right? Like he was the guy that was managing Optic Gaming. So he was that guy that literally had the house and everything, and he was getting all these content creators in there and launching up that esports team.
And he
Um,
changed the game. I mean, I think you as what you're trying to say beforehand, like esports was esports, and I think Hector took with Optic Gaming, and he really changed the perspective and changed the lens on how people look at esports, and it became more of they don't just play games; it's a lifestyle, and it's a sponsored lifestyle, and it's the content creation side of it. It's not just doing competitions. It's, you know, actually scheduling and making a career out of streaming. And you have your time where you have to stream, you have time to create content, you have time that you're doing group content. And I think that changed the game when it came to esports and what made it mainstream today.
100%. But like even back then, like it was nowhere on the scale where it is today. Like of course, Nadeshot being from Optic and then going and creating 100 Thieves, like, and then getting an investment from Drake as well.
Exactly.
That's crazy. That's huge.
Like, have you seen the Cash App compound that 100 Thieves were working out of? Like, it's
Yeah,
insane. They bought the house for who did he buy it for? The Mob. He bought the Mob a content house out in LA just so they could move in there together. They didn't have to worry about paying rent. And that's what I want. Kids that are making badass content but are struggling with having to go and work a job. And I know that if I just take away that financial problem of having to worry about paying rent, give them somewhere that looks sick to record content, then you know they can only go up, and it's only going to better their lives.
yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. Like, it'd be a situation where you just move in with the content creators because you're a content creator yourself in a
Exactly.
perspective. So
Massive.
it's all about everyone living the same lifestyle.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, that's something that I really want to get into. I mean, I'm in talks with a few people, but not in that realm where it would be esports and online. Actually, um, like brand management and talent management is what I'm in talks with a few people, but in different niches, because I can see opportunity in a couple of different markets at the minute, and especially
Yeah.
opportunity with the
I think,
top.
yeah. See, I think it's all about being able to find talent early. And I'll give you a prime example. Have you ever heard of a YouTuber called Nico? And he does like these in real life pranks and
And
like,
yeah, yes, I've heard of Nico. Yeah,
okay, so a little story. Like we were, I mean, he's like with the sort of industry that I'm in, like being a YouTuber, like you kind of find yourself like with loads of different content types of, well, different types of content creators, should I say. We're not just gaming, but you're all essentially in a similar circle with all mutual friends, if that makes sense. Um, and long story short, like Nico's a guy that's huge now. Like he's massive.
yeah,
And like he was one of those guys that back in the day, like we go back 3-4 years ago, like we were making content together once for like this trailer. But prior to that, within the same circle, like everyone always said his work was great. And we knew that he was going to take off one day. Like it was bound to happen because the quality of the content was just phenomenal. Um, and now every single video is consistent over 1 million views, like without a shadow of a doubt. And I know it sounds crazy, like I'm still in contact with Nico, but of course he's got an actual management team and now and so forth. So you couldn't just drop that because of legal binding and so forth. But well, that's a prime example of being able to find talent early as well. Because like going back in the day, like for example, if I decided back in 2015, I wanted to be like a talent management sort of agency and I had the idea to create that, there would have been like so many creators now that I could have under my belt that would literally have tens of millions of subscribers each because all these guys just blew up. But they all took it as a lifestyle
yeah.
and dedicated their whole life to it. Um, like I know a YouTuber called Kwebblecop and a guy called Jelly, and these guys are dudes that work together, and we go way back again. And each of them now have like I know Jelly has like over 20 million subscribers, and Geordie's got like over 10 million, and they were literally at a stage where they're making close to £1 million per month,
Um,
which is just mental. Like it's absolutely insane. But again, if you can find talent early as well, it's that's such a skill, and I think it's so important. But again, it's time consuming because you don't almost know what you're looking for until you come across it.
Exactly. And that's actually what gave me the idea. It wasn't even going, I want to do it, let's go look for someone. It was actually seeing people and going, shit, in a technological age like we're in, this person, 15 years ago, this person would have killed it and they would have been well known because of their skill and what they're doing. But now, because technology is involved, this is outside of the realm of gaming. Now, because technology is involved, they can't actually go as far as they would because they don't know how to brand themselves. They don't know how to do social media. They don't know how to. And I tell everyone, I tell every single person I know, I'm like, brand yourself. I'm like, I don't care if you work a day job. I'm like, start creating YouTube videos, vlogging your day job or what it's like to live your life. I'm like, it's the only way is if you brand yourself. Same with if you're a musician, if you're an artist, if you're a creator, if you're a designer, regardless of what the fuck it is you do these days, you need to be able to brand yourself, and you need to be able to know how to actually put out content that's going to engage and put out something that's actually going to help your brand and not damage it. And that's where I see a lot of people, especially people I know personally, who have phenomenal skills and who are destined to be great at what they do, but who might actually miss the mark because they don't know how to brand themselves and they don't know how to compete in a modern market.
Absolutely. See, another thing, do you know what's weird? This is where Facebook comes back into this mix.
Yeah.
Um, Facebook gaming is huge. And there's a guy, I mean, you know, Fortnite was massive, right? Fortnite was absolutely huge. It literally made people millionaires, right?
Yeah.
And interesting enough, I still do from time to time, but he was a creator. I think he was called Seven, but like it was spelt weird.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, long story short, this guy literally took off from zero to like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I think it was like 300 or 400K maybe, but like the views were huge. Like they were getting millions and millions. And then all of a sudden, it literally just flatlined, right? And the crazy thing with this is, I mean, I followed him on social media, and I'm just looking from an outside perspective. Like, we do have mutual friends, but I've never spoken to him directly up to this day. But I've just been observing what he's basically been doing, and I couldn't really understand how his channel basically came to a standstill, right? From getting like millions consistently, well, more or less consistently, and then hundreds of thousands to basically just essentially what people would say is a dead YouTube channel, which is always a sad place to be in. But the crazy thing is the content wasn't the problem. It was purely the algorithm. Now, the crazy thing about this is I don't know, do you realize if you realize how big Facebook gaming is, but he took to Facebook gaming to go ahead and stream, and he's one of two people that I actually, well, the second guy I know personally who's actually streaming on Facebook gaming. And I kid you not, like in the first month, he's gone straight up to like 200K followers on Facebook, and the streams are pulling in literally hundreds of thousands of views, like consistently like 300, 400,000 views per stream on Facebook gaming.
Is that
And the con
is it? Did Ninja quit Twitch to go somewhere? What was I do remember
oh no, Ninja quit Twitch to go to Mixer.
that.
Um
Yeah.
and then Mixer, I can't remember, I don't know the actual story, but long story short, like they no longer exist. And then I think he's gone back to YouTube. But there's another guy, I think he's called like Dr. Disrespect or something like that.
It is Dr. Disrespect as the
The guy
mustache.
with a moustache, yeah. So like I don't know again the story behind him, but like I've just seen it everywhere. But I know he's gone to YouTube now.
Yeah.
Again, it's being able to divert, but like Facebook gaming, like Facebook is such a new platform still, if that makes sense.
It's because it changes itself. It evolves every month. Like it's
Exactly.
they know everything because they're always changing it.
It's like TikTok. Look how big TikTok is. Like, I feel sorry for. I mean, like Trump has controlled TikTok more than COVID, right? More or less. But like to take
To fall apart.
literally, right?
And I've never seen it been sustainable and long lasting. It's like Vine, and fuck, TikTok is fucking Vine.
It is. It is.
It's not going to have longevity.
But the thing is, it's going to be able to transfer creators. And I know it sounds crazy, but like for someone like you that wants to go into the influencer marketing scene, you need to go on TikTok right now and bag up as many influencers as you can.
Exactly.
Because I know it sounds crazy, but like people like TikTok, the algorithm is new. It's like if you were to go back on YouTube back in the day when like you can stream a bit of gameplay with no commentary and it would get like shits of tons of thousands of views, right? Like those days are gone. You can't do that now. But back in like 2008 on YouTube, like it was possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what TikTok is, because again, the algorithm hasn't changed. It's all new. And with these TikTok creators, I mean, I feel sorry for the guys in the States because they were literally about to start earning money until Trump now wants to ban this. So the crazy thing is these people were going from zero to like millions of followers, if not hundreds of thousands in the first month. Now it's literally going to be a copy and paste. So, okay, fair enough. I would say the only successful people from Vine was definitely the Paul brothers, right? Logan Paul and Jake Paul.
There was a handful, but
Yeah.
more than 10, and I mean I can only remember 5 myself, and that would be, and the only ones different than the Paul brothers would be like King Bach or Bach,
Yeah.
fuck you call him. him, that girl that used to do the videos with him, but she's fell off the map now. But
So the thing is, it's like most of these people, because like these guys that are making TikTok videos, and no offense to these guys, because they are talented in some sort of way, because you've got to be creative to make something interesting, right? In some sort of way, but like without sounding horrible, like it's very much straightforward. And the thing is, they've got such a big audience, but when they leave
mhm,
TikTok, they're not going to be able to like go to a platform like YouTube and know exactly how to do things, because then when you go to YouTube, you've got to have thumbnails,
yeah,
you've got to have your tags. Like a fun fact for the YouTube algorithm right now, if you were to have a title in all caps, you're going to get thrown out of the algorithm, but people don't know that anymore
mhm,
unless you've got like someone managing you who knows that stuff. Like you can only have a certain amount of words in your title now that are caps in order to stay in that algorithm and then push into recommended.
ah,
You then have to sort out your end screens and your cards, because they play a much bigger factor than you actually think.
right,
And the thing is, these guys are going to be able to literally divert their followers. Like they need to start diverting their followers now to other solid social media platforms like YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, especially, right? To then divert them again to YouTube so they can earn revenue, but they're not going to be aware how to do that. And that's why they're going to fall off.
yeah, not try. It's nothing transferable. They basically, it is the same thing as Vine. A lot of people did make it good on Vine, and it was starting to take off. But then, as soon as it fell apart, they weren't able to do anything.
But they literally fall apart. Exactly.
Nothing was able to go, and they couldn't just jump to YouTube. I mean, yes, some did, but you're talking the likes of the Logan Paul and Jake Paul, who at that point had a shit ton of money to invest, and they had people to help them do it. Same as King Bash or Bash, whatever the fuck you call him. He also had a massive management team because he was one of the biggest Vine stars there was that helped him. Whereas I don't think alone a lot of these people could do it.
That's what I mean, because there's so many different factors, and
Yeah,
you've got to know how to divert your traffic. And I think people that are now on TikTok need to start diverting their traffic, because it's been great, but it's Vine 2.0. Basically, it literally is that.
exactly. And I mean, I know a lot of people like, I mean, I don't know, like Gary Vaynerchuk, like he still thinks TikTok's the big thing. He thinks it's going to, and I mean, I don't want to go against what Gary Vaynerchuk says because Gary V's
Yeah.
the man, but I don't see it. Like, I don't see TikTok going anywhere. I don't use TikTok. I don't even have a TikTok account. I have no interest in it. I looked at someone's on their phone one day and went, "That's a load of shit. I'm not it."
Yeah. Do you know
Or
what? See, I was one of those people that looked at it, and I mean, like, I'm gonna assume you did as well. It kind of was a bit cringy, and you assume like this is just for kids,
it's for 12-year
right?
olds. Yeah,
Yeah. Now, had it have not been for COVID, would TikTok would it have been as big as it is right now if COVID didn't happen? And that's a big question that you need to realize.
crashed out already. If it wasn't for the fact that, I mean, my girlfriend asked me as well at the start of COVID. She was like, "Oh, we could do some TikTok videos in lockdown," and she very, very swiftly got shut down. I was like, "I'm not doing a fucking TikTok video."
Yeah, because it's a kid thing, right? Like, no one's gonna do that.
Yeah,
So, but the crazy thing is, it's like this is huge. Like this is massive. This is massive to promote your products on right now for the time being, and that's what Gary V has been saying as well. Like I know Gary V is very much for TikTok. If TikTok gets acquired by, I think it's Microsoft, right? That's in talks, but they need to make that purchase
yeah.
like within the next couple of days, more or less, or weeks. So like, sure, if they get acquired by that, but then don't forget, like there has been times where like Microsoft and other brands do take over a company and just make it shit. Like that could happen
Oh yeah,
with TikTok.
same with like who was it bought Bebo back in the day? Did MSN they bought Bebo back in the day and then Bebo folded. So
Yeah, I saw. Do you know? I mean, well, I know you've probably heard of Casey Neistat, right?
what's that? Sorry.
Casey Neistat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What was his brand? He had like an app. I completely forgot what it was.
Uh,
I can't remember what it was, but like he sold that for like millions to like CNN, weren't it?
I think so. It was definitely one of them stupid companies in America, the broadcast and production companies in America. Yeah,
Yeah, and like long story short, they'll just like sure they can buy it, but it doesn't mean they're going to make it better, because if Microsoft buy TikTok and then the algorithm changes, like everyone's going to be screwed. Like it's as simple as that.
definitely. I think. I just don't see TikTok being long term. I mean, the problem is, right? You ask, like, I seen someone the other day. It was in a newspaper that it was a quote that someone had said, "Oh, all these people on YouTube and these people on TikTok, they're not celebrities." And quite, I mean, yes, they're not celebrities in the eyes of older generation people, but I can guarantee you a fair proportion of people on YouTube are more recognizable, more known, have more followers, and more successful than people in movies and on TV shows. Like,
Absolutely.
celebrity is such a broad term this day, to the point where they're not even classed as Z-list celebrities anymore. Like, they are millionaires, they are billionaires. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a
Yeah.
these
See,
days.
you need to put into this perspective, like TV days are done,
Yeah,
right? TV is aware of that. But like, again, again, when me and you were like kids, a celebrity was only a celebrity when they were in a movie or on a TV show,
exactly.
right? It's as simple as that. But like a good example to give is KSR right now. This guy is just absolutely dominating mainstream artists.
He took the game by storm. He is one of the ones, and they don't like each other, but him and the Paul brothers have worked out that algorithm that they can just fucking dominate. And
Yeah, they are bigger than any other celebrity.
for 10 years they've dominated. Like, KSI has dominated the British YouTube scene for over 10 years now, I think, actually.
Yeah,
And
he has.
he's had to evolve. And I think, and my girlfriend, I love KSI. I love Sidemen. It's probably one of my most watched channels just because it's easy to watch. And my missus
Yeah,
hates it because you know KSI is loud. He shouts and she
yeah.
hates it.
He's kind of become like a household name from like when me and you were growing up, like back in the day in secondary school, like way back in the day when it was just like funny videos, right?
Pink slip FIFA and like a ref
Yeah,
where you get the ball kicked. Do you know what I mean? That was the stuff we got interested in. But then he's had to develop, and he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for knowing how to actually turn himself into a brand and continue to be.
well, ha- exactly. Because like, how do you do a YouTuber boxing match and you've got Eddie Hearn by your side? Like that speaks a thousand words for itself. And like even Eddie Hearn, like completely like the thing I love about Eddie Hearn is he's just like the most honest guy you're gonna get, right? He's just straight to the point. And like he said, at first he didn't really give a shit about it, but he saw the money it can make. And they sold out how many like pay-per-view tickets and like the stadium itself.
Yeah, it's and everyone was going. Wasn't it? Was it Madison Square Garden they fought in? No, it wasn't. It was the
It was in LA, weren't it?
LA. Yeah, but whatever it was, like everyone was going. Oh, there'll be no one there. There'll be no one there, and they sold out. Same as the YouTuber games when they Logan Paul and Jake Paul held the YouTuber games. Everyone went, sure, they're not going to make nothing. It was massive. They filled the stadium of kids. Mog
That's what I mean.
Mogs Fest in the UK. I fucking hate that kid Mogs. You know
Do
him?
you know what? I'm actually I get managed with my YouTube channel through this company. Well, these guys in full screen, so like they're like dedicated talent management, and they actually manage like a few guys in phase as well, and another big influencers out there, and they actually taught me something new, right? Like Mr. Beast.
Yeah,
Morgs is just a copy and paste of Mr. Beast. There is nothing different. We're talking even thumbnails, right?
essentially. Yeah.
Now, the crazy thing is with Morgs is all right, like yeah, sure he's cringy and whatever, right? But credit, like you got to give credit to someone when credit's due, right? He is smart for his age. He is one of the smartest guys and an entrepreneur as far as it goes out there because what he has done is basically how YouTube's algorithm is working right now is you can literally do a copy and paste video, tweak it a little bit to make it your own, but you will do well with that video.
Your ball. It's
So yeah,
he's just. I mean, yeah, as you say, you can't take away from the fact that the kid is smart as all hell. Ivor Lattery has a very fucking good brand manager behind him to make sure. But like, who else do you know? What he's like 18 now, is he, something like that? There that can physically put on a festival with like their own like Mogs Fest and it be rammed, like it be a sellout success. Like it,
that back in the day, like not even a Disney star could do.
no, I do. It wouldn't have even been heard of, like for someone of a celebrity, like an actual celebrity to do it, but some little YouTuber whose mum makes possibly the worst content I've ever seen on, but can absolutely blow up. I mean, granted, as you say, the kid's a hustler. Like, he knows how to grind, he knows how to work hard.
But the way I see it is like the amount of revenue he's generated, he's only going to be guided the right way moving forward. So he's set. Like if this shuts down tomorrow, he's made enough revenue.
Of course he has. Of course he has. I mean, you can't be a YouTuber these days without having a clothing line. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has merchandise.
But that's what I mean. Like, and there's so many creators out there that we have not even heard of that are absolutely killing it right now,
Millionaires, yeah. Yeah.
without a doubt.
And that's just how it happens, isn't it? And I mean, if nothing else, that's something for everyone to aim for. I mean, you should be able to see these people that no one's heard of in your circle, but these people are killing it. And that's testament to how you can blow up and you don't have to be 100 million subscribers. You don't even have to have 10 million. Do you know what I mean? You can be successful and make a career without having to be the next KSI.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I see a lot of YouTube channels that are in this sort of gaming scene, and they don't really speak over the videos and so forth. But like, they're pulling in like 10 million, 17 million views a month. And to give you a perspective, like now YouTube makes it where you can make 8-minute videos to basically double your income. So like in some sort of perspective, depending on CPM, like 1,000 views could literally be $1,000 or like $2,000. It depends on your CPM and how many, well, how long the videos were. But
Yeah,
like if a channel is putting in like 17 million views, right, we're talking like a bare minimum of 20 grand. But like that could go all the way up per month to like 60 or 70 grand per month that person could be pulling in.
that's insane.
And that's it. Like these people sometimes aren't even talking over the videos, and they're out there. But like in comparison, they'll literally like have like a couple 100,000 subs. But like remember, it's all about your views, not your subs. Like subs are a perk, absolutely. But like YouTube now works on recommended and so forth, and that's where like majority of views come from for people.
Well, like the thing that kind of blows my mind when it comes to like YouTube, you've got people like Road to Shaw, you know what I mean? So you've got like Harry from Side.
Yeah,
The kid, he doesn't release. Yeah, I've just seen it. 5 months ago was his last video. That kid still makes like I think it's like a quarter of a mil, half a mil per month just on his viewership. I mean, there's a video here that was 6 months ago, 9.6 million views. Like he,
yeah. Do you know what's crazy? Like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I remember Road to Shaw's brother actually reached out to me back in the day because I used to play a game called Just Cause 3,
banger, yeah.
and like that's really where the channel picked up from. And like, anyway, Road to Shaw's brother was like a huge fan of like the channel, and it's weird because I realized when he followed me on Twitter that he's followed by all the other people that I know.
Yeah.
So when I followed him, the dude literally freaked out and done a tweet saying he couldn't believe I followed him. And the crazy thing is, his channel, he doesn't even upload a lot, and he's making a killing at his age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Purely because Road to Shaw's his brother. And like I know it sounds mental, but like these are like little things, right? In terms of like distributing, like going to Road to Shaw's channels now, like his main channel, like he's bringing in 15.3 million views average this month. So that's like a bare minimum of like 30 grand, 40 grand maybe. But then you got to remember the Sideman channel, his second channel, his apparel, his sponsorships.
Exactly. Wait, this guy, no way does he. Road to Shaw has a video, the Total Wipeout Challenge, has 57 million views.
That's what I mean. It's just insane.
It's pretty much 50. It's 57,851,963. That's absolutely ludicrous. Like how much money
You
he's
see,
on video.
yeah. See, one of my friends, like I was saying earlier, called Jelly, right? We go way back into like 2013. Funny enough, back when GTA 5 wasn't even basically released, but back around that time, a lot of people, well, only a hand selected of people were actually making videos on sharing their ideas, and that's basically how Jelly got into YouTube. And he originally had a channel called GTA 5 Videos. And anyway, that scaled up more or less. I don't think it did get to 1 million subs, or it possibly did. I can't remember. But like, he moved over to the.
But sorry, I was on YouTube typing Jelly. Like, I'm not even taking the piss, mate. I used to watch his Minecraft videos and his GTA videos online. That's
Really?
insane. Yeah, because I was just thinking like Jelly, and then I thought, I know someone that used to have like a little green jelly logo, and I just searched it and I seen his face, and I know this guy. I used to watch his videos all the time.
Yeah, so like this is what I mean. Like I'll share something with you real quick, but yeah, we go way back. Now when he started Jelly, like it was dedicated to literally, I guess you could say like a kids audience,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And like with that, he's been able to scale up like crazy, right? And like this is a prime example. I'm going to share something with you. Like this is going back to 2013. Like I'll send it over to you, and this is where I'll always have the most ut respect for this guy. So what I just sent you was like a screenshot of a conversation we had back in 2013, where he felt like the channel was dying, and like look where he is now. So he basically niched down into like a kid's audience in some sort of perspective, right? And his videos are crazy because I was watching it, funny enough, like a couple of weeks ago, and it was something like at the beginning, it was like, if you like this video, you'll spin the wheel, and it was like 3, 2, 1, and like it's such a kid thing, right?
Yeah.
Because like if he said that to you, like let's you know click the like button in 3 seconds, and the wheel's gonna spin, you're not stupid, right? But like he's niched down into this, and he pulls in like right now, just looking at his stats, 371 million views in the last 30 days. Do you realize that is literally over £1 million per month he's clearing?
Is that fuck me? I need to stop doing podcasts and start doing YouTube. Like I'm
Yeah,
getting
but then you're a prime example. You're doing podcasts, right? Look at the True Geordie.
killing it. Yeah.
Exactly. He didn't start off any different.
And granted, that's the one I like because I used to watch True Geordie as well. I've been like YouTube's been I've really been into YouTube. I used to make Minecraft videos when I was like 12 years old. And True Geordie, I remember when he first started doing like his channel and started doing his videos, and he used to do like roundups of like football news and stuff like that originally. Before, and then he obviously got traction. Same as a sideman when the YouTube sort of scene blew up, and then he got to then get into like the boxing scene. He's now in the professional poker scene and stuff like that. There.
Um,
Oh wait, can you hear me? All right?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Connections back. Yeah, as you said there, it's like the True Geordie thing. Like I remember watching him back in the day when he used to do like the weekly football roundups and stuff, and he used to like just make videos shouting off about Newcastle. And now he's into the professional poker scene. You know, he's into the boxing scene, and he's actually making a name for himself outside of YouTube.
That's what I mean. And do you know who another person is? You've heard of Keemstar, right?
Keemstar, yeah,
Like he's unique. Like I think, I hate or love him, he's extremely unique with what he done. Him and Scarce were like one of the, well, very much the few people who have blown up from what they're doing.
yeah,
And I know it sounds crazy, but like that's another prime example of like how big the YouTube platform is and how you can consider these people celebrities
mm-hmm.
because
Exactly,
of the numbers they're able to pull in.
definitely.
So
I mean, it is really a case of you can be. I mean, back in the day, if you were sitting playing computer games all day, your parents would be telling you to get off it. You need to learn. And now it's a case of if your kid gets good at video games, sit their ass down and make them play more. You know, like
literally, it is that.
million.
Like, guide them the right time. Take all their money and invest it into Bitcoin, and you're set.
That's it. I think people like our age actually have that different mindset compared to what our parents would have been. People in our generation understand that you don't need to work a 9 to 5. You don't need to go to university at all. Like, if you're
But
fine,
you see, now
be good at it.
I feel like we're in a time where it's impossible it's impossible to become a millionaire. There's way too many different types of businesses you can start without any funding and get to that mark.
Yeah.
I really, really do believe in that. There's just one of hundreds of different platforms out there
I,
that we never had access to when we were growing up.
same as marketing. I mean, if you had told me, I mean, even 2 years ago, if you had told me you can quit working a full-time minimum wage job behind a bar and you can actually easily make over 3 grand a month, I'd have went, no chance. Like, I can't make 3 grand a month while I haven't got a degree in law. And now,
Yeah,
like, now I'm sitting in my current state, I'm like, what's my next target? You know what I mean? Like, I'm aiming for 10K by the end of the year. you know what I mean?
Exactly, and the only person that can stop you from doing that is literally you,
Me, yeah.
and that's the beauty of it. Like, however much you want to make is up to you, and that's the power of it. And I think it's such an incredible process. It really is. And like going back, like funny enough, I was having this conversation with my wife the other day, where I was like, when we have kids, like I quite frankly don't want them to go uni. Like I don't want them to fucking waste like 10 grand going uni to learn absolutely nothing.
I have a 50 grand bill for university, and they actually rang me the other day wanting the money. And I,
That's what I mean. It's crazy because like you just miss out on the basics if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. I think the only reason you have to actually go to university these days is the social side. I mean, coming from me, I come from Northern Ireland, and I moved to the mainland UK for university, and that opened my mindset to seeing other people around me, living in different cultures, living with people of different backgrounds. And I think that's the healthy part of going to university is you grow as a person as opposed to growing educationally.
Exactly. I get what you mean, but is it worth 50 grand, for example, in your situation?
Exactly. Is it worth 50 grand, or is it worth taking 10 grand and going traveling for a few months and learning the
Li-
stuff?
Literally that. Literally that. That I couldn't agree with that more than anything. Like, I pretty much. I mean, I don't even remember how many GCSEs I do have. In all honesty, I think most times I just still lie anyway till this day because I can't actually remember. But like I'm like with like it's funny, right? Because I only had an interest in history and I absolutely nailed history. Like I'm a geek when it comes to that. And like I literally was like I think 2 marks off an A, which did piss me off. I'm
No.
not gonna lie. But like everything else I forcefully had to study for, I just failed terribly. Like you'd thought I didn't actually study for it, but I did.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think sometimes like if sometimes I think people just can't learn the same way, if that makes sense. Everyone learns in a different way.
No, and I'm a massive preacher for this because I don't learn, like I can't learn for someone telling me to do something. If someone puts it on black and white paper, I don't understand. But if someone says, stand beside me, you do it, and I'm going to tell you when you're then I learn that shit in a day. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't learn from books. I'm possibly a teacher's worst nightmare. Like as Jordan says, I'm an employer's worst nightmare as well. I have the exact same. I get that 6 month itch, and I'm like, right, what else am I going? What's new? What can I do? And
Yeah.
I can't learn from books. So school was never my strong suit. Whereas I left school and went, if I want to learn something, I can do it tactically, and I can do it, kinetically, and I can do it with my hands, and I can learn it physically. I'll do a lot better. And I think that's just something that education doesn't allow you the chance to do for the most part.
I think so. I really think so. And I think school teaches you a lot of different things and when you go into the real world, if that makes sense. Like they teach you the complete opposite.
Exactly.
I'm just waiting till I can use a Pythagoras theory. Until that day comes,
Yeah.
school was never worth it.
Until the day that I need to on the spot pull up a bit of trigonometry, it means nothing. I mean,
It's true. It really is.
school
It's
to sit down in a line and be quiet and put my hand up. That's it.
like school taught you not to talk.
Yeah.
It's weird. It really is weird.
If you get
It
stuck,
really,
people around you, ask the person above you. Don't have a group discussion to work out the problem between you.
yeah.
And
And
that
it was like, yeah, it's crazy, and not and you can't copy someone else as well. Like I know that sounds crazy, like when I just said like you can't copy someone else, but like that's a way for you because like we're all doing that now. We're copying other people, like we're copying other entrepreneurs.
exactly.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like I don't know if you've read that, but like I'll give you an example of like ways of learning. Like I struggle to actually physically read a book. For me, I just work better when it's audio,
Mhm.
but I always go ahead and buy the hard copies anyway if I can.
Yeah.
And like Rich Dad Poor Dad is a prime example. Like where I'm just trying to like copy and paste what he's done.
Yeah.
That's it because you learn from these people's mistakes so you can save yourself like 10, 20 years in your life to avoid the basic mistakes that you never realize are basic until you actually make them.
And that's the problem with, I think, a lot of people that want to start a business as well. They think, oh, like I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't know how to. And I tell everyone, I'm like, if you want to start a business, I'm like, what do you want to start a business in? Okay, yeah, you want to sell custom shoes. Like, right. What are other people doing? Oh, but I can't do that because other people are doing it. I'm like, no, if they're making money and they're successful, I'm like, fucking copy them. I'm like, don't copy every detail. I'm like, but copy their strategy, break down what it is they're doing, take their theory and their strategy, reassess, evolve it, and then just fucking
Build a brand around it as well.
yeah,
Absolutely.
just
See, like a good example, like it's a very big. Well, it's probably hard to do, but like Louis Vuitton and like
mhm,
Chanel and all these major companies, right? But they can quite literally go ahead and stamp that logo on like a water bottle, and a water bottle can go from like 70p to like £3 or £4 or more. Actually, it'll be way more
good
because
God, you're
they
talking
can,
about a bottle.
right? They can because it'll become like a fucking exclusive of some kind, like a Louis Vuitton water bottle. Like it will. Do you know what I mean? Like it's stupid, but like they can do that. And like also like if you can copy something out there, even if it was clothing wise, and you can afford to make it cheaper, like there's no reason for you not to make as much money, if not triple of what that person is.
Exactly, exactly, and that's it. And I think a lot of people just miss that mark when it comes to working out how to go from A to B. Is look at what's around you, look at what's winning, look at what's losing, and just build your brand around that.
Yeah, and you can always take a look at something that is losing, but you know the solution to make that win because it's such a good concept.
Exactly, and that,
It's like I see something really good the other day. It was something like Uber, right? Uber just copied normal taxis.
yeah,
Netflix copied the cinema.
yeah, that's it.
Like
Make it
it's so basic, but it was copy and pasted into different form. That's all. It was tweaked. It
hunt
was more accessible and it was cheaper.
exactly, man, exactly. I'm actually just looking at the clock, man. We went for a while.
We we've gone for a while. It's been like 3 hours. I didn't realize.
Oh man, well, anything else you want to round it up?
I can't remember what we spoke about, but I'm pretty sure we touched up on all edges.
I think I'm pretty sure we've hit everything anyway. And I mean, anyone listening to this, you should have got insane amounts of value from this one podcast alone. This has been incredible.
Absolutely. Well,
Awesome.
thank you for having me on, Johnny. It's been a blast. It really has.
No problem, man. This has honestly been one of the funnest for me because it's something I'm interested in, I know about as well. So we can have a more flowy conversation instead of you just me expecting you to talk at me. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
Come on, have some really good talking points, give out some incredible free value to the people listening. And I know people listening will appreciate what you've said today.
No, thank you very much. Again, I really hope you guys took some value and always just share. It's all about sharing value. So if you have any more ideas of things we spoke about with a different perspective, it's all about sharing that value. And so we can, there's a lot of money within this industry, but a lot of value to take to implement into any type of industry. So
Exactly. And if people wanted to come check out what you're doing, where do you want to let them know where you're active, what your handles are?
it's Instagram, which is MME London. That's pretty much all I'm using at the moment, more or less.
There we go. I
And
know.
then yeah, with Facebook, if you're in the affluent group, I'm pretty much there all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, there we go, guys. That's it for this week. As I said, this one's been a super valuable podcast. I hope you all got a load of value out of it. I want to do a lot more like this, where we can really provide value to people in different niches and different industries. So, as always, thank you for listening. Hopefully, you did get the great value from this episode, like I did. If you did, be sure to smash that follow button wherever you're listening: iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. It's always appreciated. And if you want to catch me for any of the behind the scenes, any other little snippets of content, little hits and tips and tricks, you get it on @_Johnny Thompson. On Facebook would be @JT Media Marketing. And I hope you enjoyed it, guys, and I'll catch you next week. Have a good one.
Hello guys, how you doing? It's me, Jack, mate. You've just finished watching probably one of the best videos on YouTube. So why not take a moment to consider subscribing? And if you haven't already, hit the like button and turn the notification bell on. Apparently it helps. I don't know how. It was a good one though, wasn't it?